and welcome back to Drum Key. This is our second season of Drum Key, Shawn. How about that?
Second season,
We made
episode
it through.
1.
We made it through 12 episodes, but we got to keep going. So this is
here we
technically
are.
episode 13.
Technically.
Yeah, we're just going to keep it rolling, see how long we can get. If we get to 100 episodes,
We have a big celebration. Have every guest back.
Yeah.
And have one big, huge podcast. So if we have to fly you over from, across the pond, we'll do it.
I'll tell all my friends. It'll be a party.
It'll be a party for sure. My name's Adam Steck. I am, if I do say so myself, the most humble host of a podcast. And that's Shawn. He's got the best hair in show business.
Not so humble, but, looking good isn't the hard part.
Looking good isn't the hard part. And we have a very, very special guest with us today. We are joined by Aaron Kennedy. Welcome to Drum Key, sir.
Man, I'm honored and privileged to be here. This is great. This is a great story you've got going on. I can't wait to get this done and go downstairs.
Oh, well, there
Check
you
out
go.
everything.
To be
I know,
honest.
right?
We dangled the carrot. Yeah.
You did.
And
Aaron?
now we were supposed to do this last week, of course, but
Right.
we got postponed, and here we are
Here
this
we are.
week, and that's awesome too.
That's
so
it.
we're good
Getting
to go.
it done no matter what.
Yep.
That's what we do as drummers. Aaron, drummer, educator, founder of Drumming Academy, and you might also know him as Rhythm Saint. That he's got a stage name, Shawn. It's all of our wildest dreams.
I'm begging you to take up a stage name. Adam Riley, I think that's his middle name. His name is Adam Stack, but his middle name is Riley. It just sounds good. Adam Riley. I said that should be your stage name.
It does flow better.
But I like your stage. That's great. Where'd you
Yeah.
go with that?
I come up with that a long time ago. It was like 2001.
Okay.
And I had launched Drumming Academy in 99,
I didn't mean to hit
which
that, but-
was obviously drum lessons.
Sure.
You know, and I created it because I wanted to go to somewhere like that where it wasn't just drum lessons, it was support and how to tune a drum kit. What does it look like to go buy one?
Right.
Music history, drum evolution, electronics, all of that stuff. And then the practical side of drumming about gigging, setting up. These are things that some students just don't know. So Drumming Academy came to me straight away and registered it, did all that stuff, built the website, which was very crude at the time because it was 99, and launched it. And it's been going ever since. The Rhythm Saint thing, it came really easy too in 2001. I wanted to separate myself and what I do. So Rhythm Saint represents me in the drum world,
Nice.
and in the music industry. And Drumming Academy, the strength of it is all about the students. Yeah, you'll see me and on it, even on the pages and
Right.
stuff, but I still feel it's
It's about them.
it's not successful if not just having lots of students, but they're doing well. So it came really easy actually to come up with both of those things. And Rhythm Saint is kind of me represent. It's my alter ego.
I like
Yeah.
that. That's your
Represented.
gimmick.
That's awesome.
Yeah, servant to the drum.
I like
Yeah.
that.
I
Yeah.
sketched it with the wings because I'm into Da Vinci, and I got a guy to render it. And if I actually had wings, they'd be in bits because I used to gig a lot.
Oh yeah.
So they'd be cutting doors.
Oh yeah.
And if I had to put them on, I'd forget them.
That's I've seen that. I went to New York Comic Con
Oh,
with all my
okay.
nerdy friends, and so like all the cosplay and stuff, and it's always the guy or gal with wings that's like ducking in the doorways, and like in the
Right.
pictures it looks great, but practically walking around with wings on your back, not the best.
You got this 5'5" Irish
Yeah.
round drummer with these huge wings. Walking to
beat
the
up.
gig. It's kind of egotistical, but actually it just means servant to the drum. And
Yeah,
I
it's
like
got a good message.
I just refashioned him, me, us. Last year I turned 50.
Okay.
So if you look at the logo, you'll see K on the baseball cap. And you'll see, we'll talk about a little bit more. Some of the tattoos I have is on it. And 1973 across the chest. And 7's my number. So the Irish flag is subtly in the 7. Little things like that mean something to me.
Yeah, it's
and
awesome.
then Evans made me a head and sent it to me.
Oh, amazing.
And it's all just
That's awesome.
translates through what you're doing. It's just my
For
thing.
sure.
It's not for everybody, but
Yeah.
for me, every day when I open the drum room door, I see these things and I just feel really lucky.
Yeah. And there's definitely something to having that. Not that you're hiding behind it, but to having that to be like, okay, I'm stepping into this role symbolically when you sit behind the drums.
Yeah, it's
helps.
very purposeful. And again, it's not for everybody. Some people just are great drummers and get their kit and go to their shows. For me, it's kind of an embodiment. It's a way of thinking. And again, I separated Drumming Academy. So the logo of Drumming Academy is really interesting, I think, and important to me. So when I was coming up with that, I spoke to the same guy who did Rhythm Saint, a graphic designer. Because you remember a long time ago, it was hard to get.
Yeah.
You know,
couldn't type in AI, generate this.
Oh, no. You certainly couldn't do it yourself.
For sure.
So I said, look, the kit has to be red because I had a recording custom cherry wood kit.
Yeah.
I used to use racks a lot. Has to have that. Have a little earring. Has to have that. I have a tattoo that I want on them. And of course, this is all getting difficult because it's, you know.
It's a small logo. But
then I
have to
said,
say, it looks nothing like you.
No,
it's
this
a
is
bald
where
black man.
I love that you said that. And this is the good part. So he came. I love that you said that. So he's very difficult to get, this guy. You know, he's kind of not eccentric, but he was half a student and half hyper talented. So I would have to try and find him in Ireland, in certain places, and say, hey, you know, and I'm saying, I'm going to pay you.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, yeah, I know. He's just so relaxed about it. And of course, me being very purposeful, I'm thinking about this. This means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So I said, I had a studio at the time. Maybe you bring me in some sketches. So he brought me in a blonde surfing type dude, which I'm not.
Also,
but
not
it
you.
wasn't. This again. You'll love the punchline to this.
Okay.
Then he brought me like a guy who should drive a bug van and is on the beach. A chilled out dude. That type of hippie type of guy. I said, no, that's not him. Then he brought me a muscular guy who's from maybe London, who's, you know, he's got a bone in his nose. I said, no. So I said, look, here's a couple of pictures of who it has to be. So Bash is the nickname for that logo, but it's a tribute to Ricky Lawson. He used to play drums for Michael Jackson, who I loved and really admired. I said, it has to be, you know, I gave him a bunch of different pictures of Ricky over the decades.
Yeah.
When he was in Yellow Jackets and when he was with Michael during Bad, and they're all wearing all the glitter stuff. But I said, it has to be that. But the other elements as well. So I finally made him look like the way he does today.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And I got to tell Ricky that Ricky and I became friends. It's insane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So years later, I'm with Pearl Drums and I'm in Europe, and I meet Ricky and we just hit it off and we become the best of friends.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to LA, I'm in his studio, it's all crazy stuff.
Wow.
And so someone I admire becomes a great friend. And he was so kind to me, it's not even funny. That stays with
I'm sure
me.
that meant
the
a lot
best.
to him as well. You know, like, hey, this logo, this image here was inspired actually by you.
It's you.
And
yeah.
what did he say about that?
Well, I was in LA for NAMM. I was there to sell myself. I also had the booth. I was involved in a drum product, and we're doing all this stuff. And I went to Ricky's studio. He came to pick me up from a restaurant, and actually, it's a good story. He came into the restaurant, and I'm with a bunch of industry guys, and they all recognized him. And he come in with his little dog Jojo, and he's just the most humble guy, you know.
wow. Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, brother," I said, "Yeah." And of course, he stayed for about half an hour to talk to everybody. He was so gracious.
That's awesome.
So we get in his Lexus and we're heading across town to his studio, and I had my Drumming Academy hoodie on. Yeah, I had my hoodie on, and I'm in the passenger seat. And he says, "Hey," I mean, I'm sure he had seen it a few times, but he never saw it on me.
Yeah.
"I love your logo." I said, "Yo, you like that?" So maybe I owe him money, you know. I said, "Well, it's you." And he's definitely, "What?" I said, "Yeah, it's you." And he was so blown away.
That's awesome.
So blown away.
Wow.
And it was a great moment. And we went over to his studio and all that stuff. And I got to tell that story at his memorial.
Wow.
And his family
That's
are very appreciative. And, you know, I keep Ricky with me every day and
Man.
all that stuff. And they appreciated that.
That's
So,
amazing that you got to develop that relationship.
oh, my God. I got to play in his studio and do things. He would actually, kind of like the coffee club Friday thing I was telling you about. He would call me every Friday. Ricky would call me every Friday, no matter where he was in the world.
Wow.
So before that would happen, like I was in Ireland for a long time. I'm in the States 14 years. So he would call me on Skype. I remember 2003, 2004.
Okay.
Ring, ring. He's with Aretha Franklin or he's with Gerard Hay, all these guys. And they would come on camera and talk to me.
Oh, geez.
Gerald Albright,
Yeah.
all these amazing artists. And they'd come into camera and
Yeah.
and I would say, "Oh, you're great. You just what you're doing is great." He called me from Korea once. I think it was Korea. And he was doing this jazz show and he said, "Oh, I'm just trying to make you proud."
Nice.
So that's the tattoo I have,
Oh, awesome.
which is
Amazing.
on
Yep.
Rhythm Saint. Yeah,
It's on
you'd
the
have to
logo
you'd have
there.
to look. It's on Rhythm Saint. You'd have to
Uh-huh.
look closely. And after he passed, I took a bad. I was very upset because it was sudden,
Yeah.
And,
And he's so close to you.
so close. I mean, but this is what drums does, right? It brought us together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know,
brings you
This brings us together too, and I'm loving this story, and I'm like, so like, I feel so kind of what's the word I was gonna say? Well, let's move on.
You'll find it.
Yeah, I'll find it. I'm sitting
I know
here
where you're
thinking
coming
about
from.
this. I feel
It's heavy, you know.
like I feel so
heavy.
what is the I just had it on the tip of my tongue. I feel like I'm like not prepared for this.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for any of
Because
it.
you're not.
I'm
It's
not. I'm
because
not
you're not.
prepared at all.
It's because
I'm like
we don't prepare for this show.
I'm where.
We
Yeah,
do. We do.
I normally don't prepare too much, but now I feel
right.
so very unprepared.
Well, we didn't. We're just
Yeah.
here.
That's
We're-
great.
we're
I
just
just
here.
picture Aretha Franklin peeking her head in the Skype, and you just in your pajamas like choking on
Well,
coffee.
he called my. So I was at home once, and
Yeah.
he called my account on Skype,
Uh-huh.
but my mom answered it. And Ricky was lying on his bed with his top off in his place in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
and my mom is a real cool person. Hi, Ricky. And he's like, oh. And he's got this chain around his neck that I had given him, this gold chain,
Oh,
to
brother.
thank him for our friendship. And I'll get Aaron for you now. Okay, he's just in there.
Yeah.
He goes, okay, thank you, ma'am. So Ricky Lawson called my mom,
Shirtless on a
Yeah.
bed. Yeah.
And then there was a clinic once with Pearl in the UK, and I brought a bunch of students and my dad. And I introduced my dad to him, and it was just,
That's great.
he's thanking him, and Ricky's thanking him.
Mm-hmm.
And, it all comes back to drums.
Absolutely.
If I hadn't become a drummer and
Of
loved
course.
drumming and loved what he did and all the other guys we love, it's amazing how your journey can.
Yep. And you can
create
talk
this
to a
thing.
drummer from the other side of the world and instantly have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
I hear a lot about comedians. Always, a comedian goes to a party, always ends up finding the other comedian. That's 100% what happens with drummers.
Yep,
Yeah.
drummers too.
Same thing.
Yeah,
it's just like, I
it's-
can't relate to any of this, and that guy's tapping on the table. Let me go talk to him.
Yep.
And you come to
Yeah,
find
it's
out.
When I'm at
Gravity.
the club, and there's a couple of bands playing. Yeah, it's like you start hanging out and talking to the drummers.
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
it's great.
magnetism, and it's not just that common interest. We're wired a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a big proponent and exponent of thoughts become things, but I said at his memorial, like he was a poster on my wall,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm sitting on his kit in his studio some years later. I mean, it's quite a few years later, but it still felt like a short time. Your journey feels long
Yeah.
when you're not getting what you want,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is. And then it's a flash
Yep.
when you're as busy as us guys are. So taking these moments, I think, are
That's
very
it.
precious, actually.
They
Time
really
away.
are. You need
Yeah.
to, be in the moment, and really just stop and just enjoy like this simplicity of what we're doing here, talking about drums, and be
Yeah.
thankful that we just get to do that.
Oh, it's a gift.
And yeah, it really
This is a gift. I
Yeah.
mean, because it's hard. Drumming is hard.
Oh, yeah.
And you can like the guys who you like in the music you like, but I kind of search a little bit deeper to how they are off the kit.
Mm-hmm.
I like the attitude and the behavior off the
Sure,
kit.
yeah.
Ricky would share stories about Jeff Porcaro and tell me that Jeff would call him and say, I'm down here at a session. I don't think I'm the guy. And are you in town? He said, yeah, I'm in town. this is an exact story. He said, yeah, I'm just going to go get some juice. That's what Ricky said. He's going to go to some juice bar and then I'll be in. And he said Jeff Porcaro stayed in the control room like screaming and fist pumping the air saying, that's great. He gave him the session.
Yeah.
Gave him the session
And
and
I'm
stayed
like-
to encourage him.
You know,
Yeah.
it's funny you say this because that's a great story, but something similar just happened earlier today where Rick Hamilton, who was also on a podcast, the former owner and the founder of Drums Etc.
Right.
He's downstairs teaching right now, and he plays in his band called Popscotch. He plays in a few bands, but one is called Popscotch. And he said, he quit the band a couple times but stayed, and he told me today he finally actually quit. He said before he quit, he called another drummer that was gunning for the gig and said, dude, I'm going to put in my notice. I want to
love
make sure that they're good to go. And he said, I think you're the guy for the gig. You want it? Like, I'll give it to you. So it's another example of that. So he made sure that another drummer
It was in good hands.
It was in good hands, and another drummer was ready to go. And I thought that was a really cool, interesting story. And then here you go with a Jeff Porcaro version
Yeah,
of it too.
I mean,
It's the same. It's the
Yeah.
same principles.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. It's the same
right.
principles. That's
yeah,
great.
it shouldn't. It's not a competition.
Right.
It's a collective effort. It's a collaboration.
Exactly.
Well, we love what we do, and everybody likes different gear and different music, but they're the stories that inspire me.
That's it. And even if you had the same upbringing, you learned how to play the same way. We always talk about you line up 100 drummers, have them play the same thing. Every person's completely different.
Yeah, they're going to play it a little different.
Yeah.
So and sometimes
the greatest
that's what the gig needs, or this is what the gig needs. So it's
Yeah.
great.
I just got inspired by his lesson. I was downstairs, and on my way up, the student was leaving, little girl, and she's on the pad, and I'm just like, I'm someone that can see that and just be
Oh yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
Yep. Happy for someone else.
Happy. We were talking about that on the floor about
Oh yeah.
that gap, that corridor, that hallway where here's an expensive set of drums, here's an inexpensive set of drums, here's a used set of drums. Let's connect the person with whatever it is they need.
And whatever you can,
Absolutely.
wherever you're at, whatever you can afford, whatever you're willing to commit to, wherever you
Yeah.
can play, that's where we try to fill in the gaps a lot.
Yeah,
I like
it's
that.
Someone says, "What's the best snare drum?" That's all. Like, it's just a matter of perspective. It's like, well, what kind of sound do you want out of that snare drum?
Right.
So you start qualifying it and just start asking questions. Well, what do you want out of a snare drum? Do you like something, that rings a lot, something that doesn't?
Or maybe they don't know.
yeah, they don't
And
know.
we'll
Often
start
they
you
don't.
off
Yep.
with a recommendation.
Well,
Often they don't.
get you in
And
that right direction.
when you read about what the great guys did, you hear about what went on in studio and on the road, and things break and high tech on an occasion, and it it's not all perfect,
Yeah,
but you try and
never.
you keep the show going, and often the audience doesn't know, but it's nice when you hear the personal stories about
Yes.
their career and their path, and just these little anecdotes of
Yep.
things that happen, and it stitches things together for you nicely when you hear, especially if someone's a good person.
Absolutely.
It's inspiring. Yeah.
All right, we're going to get things started in a segment that we love called Crank It Up, Turn It Down.
To have fun no matter what you're doing.
yes.
Absolutely. So Crank It Up, Turn It Down, we like to talk about other drummers and what they're doing behind their kits.
Yeah.
And drummers tend to be very opinionated, supportive of each other, but usually really opinionated about the stuff, especially when they're at home behind their keyboards. That's
Yes.
when it really
Yeah.
comes out.
The
'Cause
keyboard warriors.
there's no backlash, But we like to talk about drum habits, things that people are doing, techniques, gear, different things like that. And we like to just, on the show, crank it up or turn it down. So if you dig it, crank it up. If it's not your style, turn it down. That's it.
Cool.
That's it. This is completely personal, totally your opinion. And
And I'm not briefed on any of this stuff. I don't know what the questions
Sean,
are going to be.
Sean doesn't know any of this.
I don't know. I
You're
don't like
you're
to know.
briefed. You're
Yep.
briefed.
Sean's like jumping the gun.
Yeah.
Jumping the gun. All right, guys. First one. Here we go. Crank it up, turn it down. Breaking down your cymbal stands after a gig.
Ooh, okay. I am going to crank it up because I have memory locks on my cymbal stands, and my cymbal bag is maybe that.
Short one.
It's a kind of a shorter one.
Yeah.
So I do break them down. I have another hardware case where I don't have to break them down, but I do take them apart because I have the memory locks and it locks back into place. It's not a big deal for me.
And you only play a 4-piece kit generally, so you only have a couple stands.
I only have a couple stands.
So
I break it down.
It's not too much work.
Right.
Aaron,
I would say crank it up. I'm a bit OCD.
do you
I'm
have all your
afraid.
stands like labeled and stuff, and like this
I
is
do.
foot one on the rug?
I'm afraid I do.
Oh, wow.
I have Sharpie lines and stuff
Uh-huh.
like that, and sometimes I'll take out my phone and I'll have my planogram as a picture. You know, because to be fair, I'm moving stuff around a lot.
Yeah.
But listen, you can get a 4 or 5 piece kit and throw it, set up, take it down. But I do like to be comfortable. I like things not to move.
Yeah.
If something is produced in a factory in another country and it shouldn't make a sound, I don't want it to make a sound. I don't want to hear a squeak. I don't want it. If it moves, it's gone out of my life forever.
Forever.
If it's gone.
It's not just that.
Yeah,
toy.
it's
like,
kind of-
nope, this is it. I'm getting rid of it.
He'll write it off just
kind of
like
like
that.
Then and there.
Yeah, I'd say we are no longer in a friendship or a professional relationship. You are gone.
You failed me.
So the wingnut's I've got to turn it home, and it's got to stay there for the entire session or gig or
Okay.
whatever it is.
Yeah, that's
So,
it.
yeah,
One strike and you're out.
Yeah, I'm sorry to everyone.
That's it.
I'm super anal, even at home.
Oh
Yeah.
no! Don't
And
apologize.
It gets worse. It gets worse. I'm sorry. I rehearse setting up and tearing down.
Wow.
I also rehearse putting it into the vehicle and
Oh my
distances
God, I've
and
never
timing.
heard
I'm
this
I'm
ever
bad.
in my life.
Do you have
I
a
time it.
vehicle where it only fits just right one way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
and,
because that makes it better. That
yeah,
makes it okay.
and,
I feel
and,
like.
and I would use a combination of soft and hard cases.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they'll allow a little bit.
A little bit of give.
Your hardware case, I feel, should always be a hard case, even though I use soft cases. So yeah, I do all that. I rehearse. I did it just last week.
I know a lot of people do that.
Especially, I do have some larger setups, but even just a one up, one down, and then I'll set it up and tear it down. And say, okay, that was 11 minutes. Okay.
That's
then,
amazing.
And distances from the car to the venue and all this kind. Yeah.
All right, because you have your own system,
Crank
right?
it up.
What happens when someone walks up and says, "Here, I'll help you," and starts dismantling your gear?
Okay, so there's a few.
Are they gone and out of your life forever?
No.
Okay.
There's because I really appreciate it. There's a few versions of that, so
Okay.
I'll just talk about a couple.
Yeah.
The person, if you ascertain they absolutely don't know what they're doing, I worry about that because I generally use costly drums, right?
Yeah.
And I know they mean well, and it's dark and it's a trip hazard.
Right.
So I really kind of discourage that person.
Right.
A friend who's a drummer or a friend of a friend who's a drummer, I'll allow because I want to engage. I'm happy to engage, and sometimes they oh, what's this? So I'll ingratiate them or whatever the word is into that a little bit, but
Yeah.
not fully. No. So I've
I'll always let someone
You
carry.
almost said problem. It's not problem.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not. It's an
It's not
issue.
a problem.
It's well.
It's an issue.
It's an
Issue's
issue.
Slightly more okay.
And I'm kind,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am
You're
kind.
a nice guy.
Because,
Yeah.
they say, oh, that's a nice... And often I let them play. Now, sitting in, that's probably another different
That's a
question.
different conversation.
That's a different question. But yeah, I
Yeah.
generally don't like it, but I'm
Right.
still trying to be kind.
Well,
'Cause-
overall, breaking down cymbal stands, I'm turning it down.
Yeah.
Man. And here's why.
Okay.
Adam years ago would have all his cymbal stands and make sure they all fit in the hard case. They fit in the case just right. So like nothing was above this height, even if I wanted it to be,
Right.
because then it could go in the case. Now, I have turned into a completely different person because at that time, everything was memory locked, colors labeled, drum rug, all the different spots, all the tape on the drum rug.
You're
different
organized.
things. Yes, very much. Ever since I started playing, that was when I played like a 7-piece kit, a bunch of cymbals, bunch of stuff. Ever since I started playing a 4-piece kit with just a ride and a crash, I got some Pearl flat-based hardware, loosey-goosey, no memory locks, just collapse it down if I feel like playing a little higher, if I feel like tilting it a little bit more, whatever. I've become this
That person.
casual. I've become the hippie. I've become
Teach
the hippie
me.
person.
Nice.
Teach me, man.
And I have to say, it's changed my life.
Teach
It's
me.
changed my life. It's an amazing feeling to just be like, whatever.
I'm probably in the middle then with everything because
Okay.
I will collapse them, but that's because I have the memory locks and everything kind of goes back into where it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so far as to like putting duct tape or
Sure.
everything on the rug or anything else like that, but everything does have its place and it goes back in. Like the tom holder locks back in. The tom, there's
Sure.
memory locks everywhere. So, Yeah, I'm probably in the middle there.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Yeah.
That said, and that said, I also in that span, I'm very extreme when things happen in the drumming world, and I'll swing back and forth very
Right.
because and it's partially because here I do it intentionally a lot because I want to learn and be like, okay, how are they doing it this way? Okay, let me bring an 18 to a gig and see what that feels like. That kind
Right.
of thing,
That's
right?
excellent.
And but Shawn knows and can attest to this. I went from having a 22 by 20-inch bass drum, being so frustrated by moving that stupid big lug-in bass drum around, that I got rid of that and I got a bop kit that had a 14.
Right.
You went to the total
So-
extreme.
Total extreme.
And then that wasn't working.
And now
for
and
you.
I've
It's
settled
too-
on a
it's
20,
too little.
12, 14 for most of my gigs.
Well, no,
So-
then you went from the 14 to the 18, and then you
You're
went
right.
to the 18 to the 20.
So what are you running right now?
20.
20. So both you guys are far more healthier than I am. That's
Healthier.
what I'm here in the middle. Like, yeah, he's crazy. He's a crazy person.
Yeah,
No.
From what you were saying there, if it squeaks or something like that,
It's gone.
It's gone. I'm like,
gone.
oh, you don't want to hear my pedal then because I
It's
think
gone.
it squeaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm even teaching or
Yeah.
doing something on camera and I do this and my still squeaks, I'll say, you just gotta give me a minute. And then I went down
Chuck
to
it out the back.
I went to the basement the other day to try and find. I left the student. I said, you just practice that for a moment. I went to the basement,
Yeah.
which is a bit of a journey.
Uh-huh.
Not pleasant either, to find WD-40 because I knew there was a can somewhere
Sure.
and I didn't find it. To be honest with you, I found it yesterday.
He's gonna have to leave mid podcast.
But I was like this. I just shifted,
Yeah.
and the stool
Sweet,
went.
like-
Geek, geek.
Wait a minute.
I'm like, no.
Wait a
So yeah, I'm that guy. Sorry.
Gotcha. Nope. It's all good.
I'm that
all right.
guy.
Here we go. I got a couple more.
Cool.
Crank it up, turn it down. Playing with 2 snare drums.
Well, I'll crank it up. I think it's fun to do that. I only experimented with that briefly. I had a piccolo, and I didn't think that it worked for me, but it works for a lot of my favorite drummers. So I'm gonna crank it up. I think it's a cool thing to do. It's fun, but I don't do it. But I'm cranking it up. I think it's kind of neat because there's so many different varieties of snare drums out there. Why not have 2 in your setup? Depending on what your setup is. If you're playing a 4-piece set, yeah, maybe a second snare drum is overkill. But if you have a 5-piece set and you're doing some up-tempo reggae stuff or something like that, and you need a side snare for different accents, I think it's kind of cool. So I'll crank that up, yeah.
Yeah. Nowadays the trend is not to have a higher snare, but to have a deep one.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
they're making
flat.
those floor tom snares too, and it's
Sure.
just like to have that like fat like. Throw a big fat snare drum or something on it. Just is a splat drum, and then your normal snare.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
just-
What do you think? Crank it up, turn it down.
Yeah, crank it up. I don't do it all the time, but I have my combinations there
Yeah.
that work together. Like they kind of, I don't just add a snare to the left or the right as an auxiliary snare. I like it to harmonically work with the other snare.
Serve a purpose in the music too.
Yeah, that they both speak together, or at least if I migrate from the kit, and I usually like 2 up, 2 down. It's got to sonically sit in there, you
Sure.
know.
Do you go
and
higher or lower with
I've
that?
used
secondary?
3 before. You know, I've used a jungle snare to have
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
a couple of little things. Not done the low tuning
Yeah,
or the
no,
ballad
no.
snare.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just not for me.
Just 2 things. Yeah, 2 snares that are somewhere in there. Because
Yeah.
I've heard that like deep thing.
Yeah, and it sounds
Neat. It
it's-
sounds
it's-
decent recorded. I haven't
it
heard
does.
it in person. I mean, I've experimented and gotten that sound for people who are looking for it in the shop. One thing that scares me about that, being here, working at a shop and giving advice and education, is 9 times out of 10 people are like, here's a drum hack to get that fat sound. Just take this lug and detune it. I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
so you're going to be buying drum heads all the time. You
Right.
can get that sound using muffling and using a lower tuning of the snare drum, but to just completely detune a couple tension rods is
Yeah.
like not
You're
like
asking for trouble.
you're asking for trouble. And uneven tension, your rebounds all thrown off. There are ways to get that sound without doing that.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't have it doesn't have response. And for me, I could have my main snare tuned slightly down, which I did the other day for a friend's record, and then catch the floor tom with it. Because for me, then it's another stand and another snare that just with the way I play.
Yeah.
I've heard some great players do it. For me, it's just one sound. For me, it's just one sound. So it just seems a little bit redundant, just for me. But I like two snares. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Yep.
Yep,
Crank
sounds
it
good.
up. Yep.
Yeah, I'll crank it up as well. I've done it a few times. I've gigged it a few times. I like where Shawn was going with that real high like reggae thing. I've taken a little 12 out, flipped the snare wires off, and had like a timbale there.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, that's
And
cool.
that is just, which technically that might not count in two snare. It's a snare drum.
It's a snare drum.
Well, it's a
snare
voice.
drum.
It's a voice, though. You know that
Yeah.
they're voices to me,
For sure.
and I feel my approach to drum set and drumming and snare drum, that's your accent. So I'm very particular about my
Yeah, there's
snare.
a reason we have a whole wall of snare drums downstairs, and every drum shop does across the country. It's
And
because
everybody-
think about how often you're playing on that drum. How many strokes does that drum get versus everything else in your setup?
Yep.
You know, I always remind people of that when
That's
they're
your
really
voice. I always
focused
think
on
about
something
that.
like a gong bass drum or something, for example.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Great, awesome, but how many times do you hit that
Right.
versus
Right.
your snare versus your, you know what I mean? And so I think some people focus on different things, which, focus on whatever. I always use the example with cymbals. A lot of folks start out with a pack or something, and then they always have one they go to. Usually it's either the Hatch or the Ride that they can't stand. The other ones are fine, but that's the first one to be upgraded.
Right.
Same kind of thing happens with drums and drum sets. Sometimes someone's unhappy with their drum set sound, and instead of replacing something, they want to add something to it. And I'm just like, let's work with what you have, make that sound better, and then
Yeah.
expand.
I think the addition should always be minimum a compliment,
Yes.
and the maximum you can achieve is maybe be really dynamic, but not too dynamic. Like, I don't know if you'd say a gong bass drum, which I do use, but I took down the other day. It is a dynamic, but it's limited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe you buy a China or an effects cymbal, and maybe it's too much of a voice.
Right.
So you have to find a balance between it
Yeah,
being a
certainly.
compliment or something outrageous,
Right.
which
Yeah.
we're gonna love. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Right.
oh wow, I love this so much. I just can't figure out where it's gonna work tonight.
And if you
or
have
right.
to think
in
about
my
it too
setup.
much, then
Then it's not right.
Okay, it's not right.
Yeah, and then there's the cost. So, you've just spent $500. You
Sure.
could have bought a snare drum that could completely change your drum career, your drum journey, because it's
Yep.
just so good. Even on a budget kit, a great snare can,
Yep.
Make
in
the
my
difference.
opinion, can really make a huge difference. So
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
two snares, I think, are great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Especially if you could be creative.
And it's actually just talking about this is inspiring me to do it again.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool.
You know? I
That's
think
it,
I'm going
man.
to. It's been
If
a long
you're-
time.
If you're ever feeling stuck, I always encourage people, tilt the ride a little,
Right.
move it around.
Take your time off.
You've
Put
got
another time on.
even the slightest adjustment to your setup, obviously keeping in mind your stroke and ergonomics and everything, but even the slightest adjustment to your approach or what you see or what you feel when you play can re-inspire you about the drums.
Yeah, because I
Absolutely.
don't know about you guys, but I don't know about you, but I find myself, okay, this is my setup, and that's how I play. I play a 4-piece kit. I try to keep it pretty. Even my electronic kit is set the same way. I have a few different drum sets, and I set them up the exact same way. So you kind of get into that habit.
Yeah,
but it's always
sure.
great to get out of that habit. Add that extra snare drum. Take away that tom.
Throw a
or
cowbell on there or
Throw a
something.
cowbell on there.
Completely
I
changes
did that.
everything.
Yep, I broke out my.
Yep.
I hadn't played my cowbell in a long time, and I broke that out a few months ago, and I started playing a cowbell again. I'm like,
Yeah, even inverting your toms.
Yeah,
As odd
that's
as
a
it
good
can
one.
be. I tell guys, hey, just invert your toms, you
Yeah.
know? And when guys are not in a position to expand their kit or even change their heads, I said, well,
Right.
put your floor tom over here. They're like, you're out of your mind. But no, do it,
Yeah. Try it.
Just try it and see
Yeah.
what happens that Saturday afternoon.
Yep.
And, usually I get a positive
you're gonna
response.
get,
Yeah,
you're
that
gonna
was,
get something positive.
Yeah.
out
that
of
was
it.
interesting,
Because it
man.
makes
I
you
did
think
it.
differently.
It does. It does. All right, speed round. Crank it up, turn it down, drumhead mutes.
Crank it up.
Why?
Versatility. I don't say. I'm not saying.
Okay,
that you need.
I should say I'm talking like sound off pad, like
Oh,
rubber.
no.
Put it on your head.
I thought you were talking about like a snare weight,
Like
or
a
something
muffler?
Like that.
No.
Not muffler, mutes.
No,
No.
I'm
cranking it down?
Cranking it down.
Cranking it
Yeah.
down. Crank it down.
Yeah.
Not even turning it down. You're
I'm
cranking,
cranking it down.
Yeah.
I don't like them.
It's
hate
it's out of my
selling- I
life
hate-
already before it even enters my
I
life.
hate selling
Yeah.
sound off pads.
Yeah.
I hate it. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah, the
horrible.
mutes. Yeah,
they feel like mush.
I put this in here because I was looking downstairs and I ordered some more today.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to talk about that on the show so I can crank it down.
Good.
Yeah. So you
All
can
right.
crank it up and sell them. No,
No.
down. Crank it down.
Yeah, I'm cranking it down. And
Yeah.
and I think it's funny because I remember, and I've seen this happen with a few students, and I was like, that's me. That was me. I remember when I first started playing, I was real self-conscious about my playing, my parents' basement, and I was like, they're going to be listening to me. And like, for whatever reason, I
Self-conscious.
had that.
Yeah.
I had that thing. I mean, I started playing like late middle school age.
Okay.
So, the junior high, like everyone's looking at me. I had some of that still. So I felt that way. And I remember like I got my first drum set, right? And getting all the mutes for it because I was like, this is great because I can practice, but it'll be quiet. And you instantly have the worst rebound, the worst response ever.
Yeah.
Like it's I think the best use for a drum head mute like that is not even for practice on a drum set. I think that stuck on a countertop as a practice pad is great.
Yep.
Yeah. For a
something
music
like that is
video.
great. Yeah,
Music
or
video. Yeah, it's no.
Yeah, but and we sell them, but I always make sure that whoever buys them knows what they're getting into.
I'm always a little heartbroken too when, especially if it's somebody that's just starting out, and the youngster wants to play the drums, and maybe the parents are like, "Well, we need mutes for it." I'm just like, "Oh no,
No, you don't.
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, you don't." I'm like,
Don't do that.
If you can play, I know it's loud. It'll eventually turn into music. At first,
Yep.
it just
Yep.
sounds like racket. But if you can limit the time, like, okay, don't be a jerk and play at 10 o'clock at night
Sure.
when everyone's trying to sleep, but set your practice time, and that's when you practice because you're going to want to play the drums acoustically. That's where you develop your feel, your touch, your technique,
Mm-hmm.
and those pads do so much damage, I think.
Yeah,
And-
they suffocate everything, action, and they have their place.
And,
But
yeah,
sound is gone. It's sound
Yeah.
is everything.
And for me, inspiration to sit down behind the drum set is gone.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's more important than sound to me.
I'd rather just
Sound
sit
is
at a practice
everything.
pad. I'd rather just sit at a practice pad.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, drumhead mutes. You got
Yeah, sorry
cranked
about that.
down hardcore.
We really-
It's okay. That's what
We
hey,
blistered
We
'em.
sweep the leg on that one. guys. They are gone.
gone. All right. Speaking of gone, this segment's gone. We're jumping into drum industry news. All right, so drum industry news. This is where we highlight things in the drum industry side of things. Sometimes it's retail, sometimes it's, just things that people don't know that much about or don't have that much experience with. Today we're going to be talking about something that I know you have a lot of experience with, that Shawn and I don't have as much hands-on experience with, but we have the retail side of things because we deal with these people. Drum industry news, we're going to be talking about drum techs and being a tech on the road, what techs need, our interactions with guys that are like, hey, I'm down here at the Chameleon Club and I need, which happens all the time, and riders and all sorts of things like that. So, I want to talk about your experiences, first of all, of your tech experiences. I know you've tech for some pretty major drummers, too.
Yeah, I've been very lucky to tech for. I did some work with Stuart Copeland, who was a big hero of mine.
Me too, yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Still is, and
Yeah.
he was great. He knows what he wants. He has his signature sound.
Mm-hmm.
The teching thing started out for me kind of by accident. It started locally,
Okay.
just back home in Ireland.
Yeah.
Helping a friend, then helping a friend in his band, then helping a friend in the hall, and then kind of went to more serious stuff. And we have a bunch of festivals, and first they need some gear. There's always a gear issue,
Right.
And we talked about my gear, so they weren't getting my gear. So we got backline companies, and then
Stuart Copeland's like, can I borrow your drum set? You're like, no.
he actually did. Would you believe he used my stands?
Did he?
So yeah.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool.
There is a line where you're
Yeah,
like,
there's a line.
You're like,
Say
all
no to
right,
them.
you qualify. I
He
guess."
used all my hardware on the
That's
But
Letterman show.
not your buddies from high school. No, you're not letting
Yeah,
them.
no,
have your
they're
stuff.
not getting that. You've only one kit, right?
Yeah,
when you
right.
start out, so
Yeah.
no, there was none of that. So I mean, going to so many shows, I would go early. I mean, to concerts, and I would hang out and watch these guys, and sometimes talk to them. And you really didn't. It was very taboo then. You didn't get backstage, and I would try and get to the side field.
Right.
So that it didn't happen that way. It happened with kind of Irish festivals
Okay.
and being hands-on and simple stuff, setting up a bunch of them. And then it was like, front of house would say, well, to the drummer, we tune it. And there's kind of one incident where, I said, I'll tune it for you if you like. And so there's a very quick story about my tuning experience. So it's real quick. I bought a recording custom, a Yamaha recording custom.
Okay.
And I remember we were all standing in the doorway waiting for it to arrive.
Mm-hmm.
It arrived. I took it out of its boxes. I gigged with my dad for 10 years, so that was a big experience. So it was 4 o'clock, and I was to be in the van by 6 with this new kit.
Oh my gosh.
So I took it out of its boxes. And I mean, we spoke earlier, I had a Power V before that. You have one downstairs for sale.
That's neat.
And I liked them, and but I was getting a little bit better at drums, and I had a more better
Expensive
ear,
taste.
expensive taste, expensive ear, and I, watching people like Dave Weckl and all these guys and Vinny, and I was getting a really good perception of at least what that kit could do.
Right.
Not to mention, of course, they're using amazing microphones and stuff. These are the
And
things
they're
you
amazing
don't,
drummers.
and they're amazing drummers, and you don't know this, but
Right.
anyway, I had 8 through to 16, took it out of its boxes, tuned it up, wasn't too bad. Spent about an hour, and I'm like, wow. And my drumming changed, like, in that hour.
Mm-hmm.
However, what did this guy do? I tuned it all down. Now we're 5 o'clock. I tuned it all down again because I could get it back to where it was. I did not get it back to where it was. I was
You're
16.
running out of time.
Yeah, I was a teenager, and I was like, I am going to learn this, and I'm going to be a black belt in it because this is a problem. And I spent the whole gig with my dad that night. I mean, the kick drum sounded good, but the toms just
couldn't
just
dial
wrong.
'em in.
Off. Yeah, no, because I got overconfident in myself, not the kid. It wasn't the kid's fault.
Yeah.
It sounded beautiful through the register when I did it the first time in my drummer. My dad built me a drum studio at the back of our property, and I was sweating.
Yeah.
And I cased it up. I had cases, put it in it. Oh, he said, "Are you really happy with your kit?" And I went,
Wow.
And so that was a definitive moment when I said,
And
I need to learn this. There was nowhere in the 80s you could go to learn how to tune. There was video cassettes. There was nothing online. They spoke about it in magazines, but you couldn't hear.
Yeah.
You had to hear the difference. You had to have the control of out of tune snare drum, in tune snare drum. And we could all crank up a snare,
Right.
but it isn't tuning. You're
Right.
just choking the snare. So that was the start of my tuning experience. So by the time this person needed a kit tuned for an open air festival, it was a 4-piece kit. I remember it was a Pearl Masters, and they put a bunch of great microphones on it. They're pushing a lot of air. They're subs.
Yeah.
And the guy does this to me, I think I was like 21 or something. He said, "Come here." And he said, I might have some work for you, And that's kind of it's still not teching, because I'm not looking after the guy's wedge. I'm not even carrying the drums at this stage.
Right. You're
But-
setting up. You're just setting up.
I'm setting up, and a lot of the time, to be honest, I wasn't setting up. It'd say, "This guy's going to come." He'd say, "I'll have it set up for you, and you just tune them for me." And I would do the sound check.
Wow.
And I loved it, and I got better and better at it. And then I would
Yeah.
offer a tuning service locally. But I mean, I had a few nightmares, as you do. I'm like, oh man, this is not.
When you're doing that, do you use any types of gauges or anything else like that? Or do you just do it by feel and ear? And
Feel and ear, I
okay,
know,
cool. Yeah.
and I think some of the tension watches and some of these things are have a place.
Yep.
But I've always just done it for ear all this time. So I would say to people to have a look at that stuff, invest in it. I was part of a project where we did do one of the first apps,
Okay.
and sadly it got challenged and we had to pull it down, but it was very successful.
Oh.
And actually, Stuart, my tunings, because I ended up owning the Letterman kit, as we call it, my tunings were on that. And you could purchase the tuners for $1.99 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that's about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And how far have we come?
Right.
Where the interest was there. I didn't say,
Yeah.
let's do an app. I just said, let's just educate.
Yeah.
That's where I was at. I wasn't
That's where
trying
you
to make...
that's where you got to start. I
Yeah.
mean, with your intent really matters. especially with that kind of world. But yeah, no, we don't use any gauges or anything here.
No,
we will sell them to people if they want to get
sell
them.
'em.
Sure.
And I have used it.
Yeah.
But it's just so much. And I've tuned so many drums over the years coming into the shop.
I'm
I could
sure.
and putting together drums and doing all. I could just do it. I just feel it.
That's great.
And I just
Yeah.
have that touch. And I remember a nice compliment years and years ago at the Chameleon Club when I would play there. It was a club downtown here. Don't look for it; it's not there anymore. But it was the premier club
there.
in Lancaster.
Gone.
All the big bands played there. I've even opened up for quite a few big bands that toured and came through.
Excellent.
But I remember, it was one of my first times playing there in my early 20s, and the sound guy was like, "Finally, somebody that knows how to tune their kit." I still remember.
And you were on
I was like,
That's great.
cloud nine.
Yeah.
And it's still rare enough. And what's important for your viewers and drummers who are starting, drummers who are doing it decades,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
I have a tuning service back where I am, and you can either drop the drums off, or I can come to you, time permitted, or I can work for you in studio or at your session or, hey, your church, whatever it is. But it's okay.
Right.
And I need to I need to work on that more and let them know it's okay. No matter where you are in the world, find someone that can.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Because actually, none of us were told how to do it,
right.
or even had to set up a drum kit.
Yeah.
We spoke about earlier. You
that's
buy
what
a kit,
yeah.
figured
it's
it
not
out.
set up for you.
I know. That's what I'm actually doing.
okay.
You're going to be doing a master class later this year.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
if people like kind of stuff you're saying, you're going to be doing a master class. But creative confidence behind the kit. We're going to set up a kit. It's going to be amazing. The first one is me doing
Excellent.
one on the drum set. And it's going to be literally setting up a drum set, learning
Love
the
it.
anatomy of it, taking it apart, putting it together, tuning. And the tuning section, here's spoilers for anyone that's coming, the tuning section is not going to be a sheet of paper and here are the directions, because that's not what it's like. We're going to hit a drum, we're going to listen to it, we're going to start with even tension, and we're going to adjust. The top head, the bottom
Love
head,
it.
what does that do? Very basic information, because I think what people need is really, they don't need a step-by-step guide. Every drum's different. Every room responds differently. You need to be
Yeah.
able to hit the drums wherever you're about to play them and adjust.
And I was
Yeah.
going to say that about your Yamaha kit too. Your dad had built this nice, beautiful studio,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure that you put that drum set in that studio and played it. The room had a lot to do with it too. 'Cause
Environment
it sounds
has a lot to
good.
do with
In
it.
the-
Yeah.
I'm sure there's foam or something. It was very acoustically
Well,
sound.
we didn't soundproof it, but you got walls, they reflect or they dampen, and
Yeah.
you're at a hall. And
Yeah, different.
You sound check it, and the bass drum's big, and all,
Yep.
and it feels great. And you're there on your own. 600 people come in, 100 people come in.
Now it's different.
Things change.
Yep.
And I know many of the world's top techs, and I really respect them because they have multiple challenges of humidity and
Yeah.
traveling and something missing
Oh
and
my
not showing
gosh.
up, and they've got to really work hard. Excuse me, in the last minute before opening, and I learn a lot from that because I'm like, how did you overcome that? Mm-hmm. And they talk about making something at the last minute. Some of these guys are very electronically savvy.
Yeah.
They're soldering modules backstage.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I would like to think I'm very competent at tuning and sound and applications and microphones, and there's all these, I don't want to say levels, but there's definitely distances between the audience. There's stages maybe, or stepping stones of distance between hitting the snare and the guy, the 80,000 person at the back of the stadium. I mean, you got delay towers, you got all sorts of things happening, but it comes back to source.
Right.
Okay, got a drum kit, and now we're in a bar, and how are we going to make this work? Because we've got a person sitting there, we're in a stadium, it's there. I mean, I learned a lot from, I'd like to mention him, Jeff Seitz, who's Shirt's #1 guy. I call him the ghost in the machine.
Yeah.
He kindly invited me during the police reunion tour to be around them, and I mean, he's been with him since the start,
Yeah.
since Synchronicity and stuff.
And his evolution of
Before.
how he's taken his career
It's phenomenal.
doing that is incredible.
He's
And
phenomenal.
you learn so much along the way.
Yeah, Jeff. Jeff, I call him the ghost in the machine. It's just, it's. He's getting the same sound every night that Stuart wants.
Right.
And Stuart walks out, and there's never any lack of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy Sullivan, who worked with Larry, I used to say, Larry does this famous walk into the drums, and he sits down, and it's like he's just sitting down to have dinner. That's his confidence in his tech.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you'll see Sammy just puts his ears in and it's off. And they're a high production band, U2.
Right.
So no matter what the production is or who the band is or what level, it's important. That's another thing.
Yeah.
It's okay not to be able to do it, and find someone who can.
Yeah.
Who truly can,
Yeah.
and they want to,
Right.
and they want to help you be the best. Sometimes for us techs, I might want you to sit a different way because I know it would be better for you. Well, you're kind of doing someone's corner too. If that's the way he wants to sit, unless there's an opportunity for you to say to me, what do you think? You have to be careful with that too. And that's not even the correct word. You just got to be professional.
Yes.
Whereas I know his hips are too whatever, or
Right.
he's too much over the kit.
And
or-
he knows that you know.
maybe, I don't know. I mean, guys, we're all comfortable. It's like driving a car. It's
Yeah.
ergonomics.
There's something about that student-teacher relationship where you have that in person. I can see what you're doing, and you're not realizing it. And then there's also that trust has to be established first before they're gonna even
Yeah,
hear
I
you
learned
out.
not to say it.
Yeah.
And
Don't say it unless it comes up.
I
right?
mean well in everything I do, and I want to say it. And we've talked. I want to say it. And if it means you're just going to be better, but then there's the professional aspect, and you don't want. Hey, he's a bit to play, and everybody has a different disposition.
Sure.
That's
you,
a
you
whole.
mentioned that right before he's going to play, and now he's self-conscious.
It's
It
not
might
good.
throw him off his game.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
So even though you mean well, it could be a
Right.
whole other podcast. Mindset.
Right.
How you help a drummer at any level. At any level.
Oh, for sure. I
because
still
they
get
want
into
to
my
have
own
confidence.
head,
But if
That-
they've got confidence in their sound, it really helps.
Right.
You see their
Absolutely.
spirit lifted.
Yeah.
That's
it. And they, like you said, there's something about. Wow, we need to have a documentary on drum techs, and it should be called
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
the walk out to stage or something, because that is really the moment
Yeah.
where they have that
You
confidence.
should share. You'll find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Larry's walk on,
Yeah.
and I did have a recording of it because I was there. I had a BlackBerry, and it's gone, but you'll find it. There is other.
Okay.
And he just walks on, and it's just. Whether you like the band U2 or not, just the drummer walking out like that and sitting on the kit, it's quite the moment.
Yeah.
And the audience has some drummers in the audience, but doesn't have as many as we'd like.
Right.
And they're watching this, and it's epic. But the confidence he has in Sammy, he just sits down and starts the show. That's when everybody's done.
Absolutely.
It's just a magic moment.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this, because I've seen it different ways. I just recently saw Max Weinberg's rig rundown thing with his stuff, and he's got pedals that activate lights over here because Springsteen likes the stage to be like nothing except the band on it, which I love that look and that
Old school,
that
yeah.
production. But then I've seen other backstage things where say Suckerman's playing, and if he turns around, his tech's head is right here if he needs something. When you tech for other people, how did you communicate, and what was the setup?
Excuse
the
me.
differences in the setup for
Well-
your access once the show started? Because I think that's a really unique thing, especially when guys are playing on bigger arenas or something where the stage is different.
Yeah, I mean it's black. It's you're in the dark.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time doing something at this big venue in Dublin. I didn't have a mag light.
You're sitting in the
I
dark.
thought I was so organized, and
The
I
one
guess
thing, the flash, the light.
the light, just things, whether it's tape or gloves. I mean, I remember not having gloves once, and you feel disconnected because it's back to being tactile and being able to do things efficiently. But to answer your question, I did a beat on the street or something like that in Dublin. I mean, again, it was an accident. I was just in this music store in Dublin. Somebody said, they didn't say drum tech, they said our roadie has gone missing. So I happened to be, and I shouldn't have been, I think I was skipping school or something. I should not have been in this music store in Dublin. But I find myself in these places. And I said, without even really hearing what he said, I think I thought he said he needed a drummer. I said, I'll do it. And everybody just looked over at me. Well, they're all in retail. This has to happen now. Oh, I know what it was. It was a place called Phoenix Park. It's almost like our Central Park. There was
Okay.
a blues gig a Budweiser sponsored concert. These are things I would go to.
Yeah.
So I think I was 19 or something. I said, I'll do it.
You're like, I'll be there.
Maybe I was a bit younger.
Also, what do you
if I
need me to
skipped
do?
school. Yeah, so it was roadie. So it was
Got
get
it.
the drums. It was all hard work.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
get the drums across this field onto this. Because when you build a stage in the middle of a field, there was not a stage there. Now there's a stage there. So it's not that glamorous. Especially in the late 80s. You know, they're propping it up with pieces of wood, and I'm looking. I said, I've been to gigs. I thought gigs were all glamour, but, you know, all these
Those
guys
are the
have got-
unsung heroes, man.
all these
Totally.
guys had ponytails, and I just looked so out of place. I really did. I showed up in jeans and a shirt, I think. I did not look like... But, I mean, I don't want people to misunderstand. It was pure passion why I got there, not overconfidence. But I knew when I got there, I was out of my depth. But I set the kid up. I was a Yamaha. It came from a backline company called Wilman Lane. They... Right, are you the roadie? Yeah, but everyone's real gruff, and there's riggers and there's all sorts. I don't even know if my parents don't know half these stories, but yeah, and
You're like way out of your element. You know?
way out of
Yeah.
my element, way
Yeah.
out. Now I knew I could play.
you-
I was already a okay player,
Right.
and I knew how to handle stuff. And I'm very respectful. You give me your drum, well,
Right.
somebody else is gonna die if they mark your drum.
Right.
I'm your bodyguard for
You're
your drum.
responsible. You take on that responsibility.
I love it,
That's-
but
that's why you.
I
kept getting
didn't
gigs.
have the lingo. I didn't have the slang or the jargon. It was a mixture of British
Yeah.
and American and South African crew. I always remember that. And
Oh,
some Irish.
interesting.
And it's just that they knew each other.
Yeah.
And they worked for different companies. They were all great people, but they're busy. And they've got their head down. And that's an important thing. If you want to get into it, these are great questions. So the drummer, fortunately, he didn't really know what he wanted. And then we kind of come up with, I said, well, I'll stand here behind this big wedge monitor. And it was a day gig that I was actually going to go to anyway. And
Funny. And here
So-
you are working
You're
it.
on stage.
I did his set. I wasn't even on. It's not even really on stage.
just
It was
there.
Yeah, because remember they just built this thing in the middle of a
Right,
field.
right.
I mean, it's cooler than I'm saying, but I'm just trying to be real with you. And yeah, these guys had cut shorts and tactical boots and ponytails and carbines, and I had nothing. I had this like
Jeans and
Levi's
t-shirt.
shirt. I think it was a Levi's shirt. I'm a summer dude. And in these jeans and Nikes. Oh, I'm gonna get my Nikes dirty. But I got stuck in. I mean, I wasn't a fool either. I'd already been gigging 3 to 5
Sure.
nights a week with my dad. Lots of people wanted me to play for them, and I was saving up for cases, and I was bringing my gear around the Golf GTI too. Hundreds of gigs. So I knew how to get there and do something. So he said, I saw the set taped to the floor, and then it said, guy comes out and speaks. I'm like, what is this? So the guy was going to come out and go, welcome to summer,
Right.
1989 or something. This festival
Yeah.
for the summer. I went, okay, so he's going to speak. So I started to learn, water breaks and pee break, different things, how a
different
schedule runs
Yeah.
on a stage. And it was, like I say, it was rough and ready, but I looked at him and, okay, got it. Because I had sets with my dad, but it was just a set of songs.
Right. Now you're getting the background of what goes into the show behind the
That's
scenes.
more of a production.
That's a production. That's a better word for it.
Yeah,
The
and
whole
then-
9 yards.
This drummer didn't sing or anything like that, but then the band were going to stand up and do. I'm like, what is this?
There's cues and all kinds
They
of
were
stuff.
going to do like an Irish type of thing, and it worked out. I got the drums to sound good, so the communication thing was literally just he dropped a bunch of sticks. The floor tom did this a few times. It was easy, really, but we learned to just and not to be too obvious with it. But as time goes on, that all that stuff it's in the ears and there's signals and
Yeah.
I know guys that have worked for Mike Portnoy and he knows what he likes to have backstage, and it's great that they know.
Right.
And some people like shiny cymbals, and some people like rituals before going on, and
It's
they
all
like
important.
they like a particular thing.
It's all about getting into your head. You know?
I remember it's not a tech
Your
thing,
zone.
but I remember being at a Dave Weckl clinic, and he does all his own sound and
Okay.
everything. And all he asked for was, at that particular time, and I mean, if Dave sees this, I have a lot of respect for Dave. I've studied with Dave. I just love him. If he remembers, it was in Europe, and he just asked for a beer. On his rider, it's just a beer and a plate of mixed sandwiches. And he teched for himself. And actually, he did it. Another brief story. He did a clinic in Dublin, and a friend of mine says, "I'm gonna be teching for Dave." I said, "No, you won't."
Oh my
'Cause I know him really well.
Right.
I know he's drumming well. He's got his own thing.
Yeah, he doesn't need you.
He's got right.
He does it.
And I said, if you do it, something will go wrong. Well, guys, I was in the audience, and if someone Irish is watching this, they'll know this is fact. One of the mics
Yeah.
came off a tom. I think it was his second tom, and Dave is crushing it. And this guy I know went to come to it, and he went, "It's okay." Dave played with one hand, worked on his mixer, fixed it. He did it all. He did it all. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
self-teching, and I respect Dave for that a lot. His
Yeah.
sound is phenomenal.
Yeah, it sounds like a common thread in everything you're saying is you really got to get to know the drummer, if you can. If you
I
have the
think so.
luxury of that, you really do.
If you have a moment, I did something with. I was at a Dublin music show,
Mm-hmm.
and John Blackwell, who I had a lot of respect for as a player,
For sure.
he was doing a couple of clinics in Dublin. Then he was going to do this trade show, and I was there at the trade show, just there, same again, just there, and I could see him. So I said, "There's John. Well, he's not ready for his thing yet, but he's there already, sound checking."
Yeah.
So I'd known John, so I was making my way over to him, and John was not happy. And, well, he ended up in a situation where he didn't even have a drum key for this Tama kit he was playing. Of course, I'd one on me, and probably had three on me,
Yeah.
I happened to have the one that came with the Iron Cobra in my pocket.
Yeah.
And I was like, I went, okay. So I've been around John a few times. I mean, we're talking about a supernova drummer here.
Yeah.
And I know he gets in his zone. I knew he'd get in his
Mm-hmm.
zone before he play. I saw it in Germany. I saw it in LA. I didn't want to bother him because once he gets going, he's a phenomenal player. I was like, oh, how am I going to approach this? I didn't want to. Hey, do you remember LA? Do you remember?
Right. No.
Yeah.
I'm like,
He's game time, like pump up music's playing, like he's ready to go.
he really is, So I said, I'll let him see me. Not that he'd recognize me, because he gets very focused. So I position myself like between, if you imagine him behind the kit, the crash cymbal, and the first tom. And I don't know, I just postured myself as if to say, I'll help, I can help you out. I don't know. There was no words.
Yeah.
And, he stood up, and I went round and fixed his pedal, and he went, oh, I said, would you like this? And he goes, yeah, do. And then I kind of ended up not taking over, but helping.
Yeah.
And he got through it, and
Wow.
that's that. Did the same for Mike Tirana, who's just a great guy. Kind of ended up with that.
Yeah.
Just being there.
Just being there, and then testing the waters, being like, okay, are you cool if I take a step closer, taking that step, and then gaining that approval to go a little bit further and a little bit further.
Absolutely.
And it's all about respect. It's all about respect.
John's, he was great, but I knew how his personality was.
Do you? It sounds like you know other techs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you? If you get a gig, how connected is that world of drum techs?
It's pretty connected, but what does happen is if what I do is I just try and service East Coast. I don't travel, so if someone's coming through, I'm happy to help her. Some of it's just over the phone, say, hey, I'm gonna be near you, and I'm playing this fair. I mean, I said, you've got what you need. I'll come. You don't need me. It'll be fine.
Sure.
Because certain venues require different things, and usually the guys have their guys anyway.
Right.
And even if they don't have a guy that works for them full time, someone will get them someone. So also what I mean is when there's downtime. So you have to be proactive to say, I'm available.
Right.
Because there's lots of people that actually take multiple instruments. Friends of mine worked on Blue Man Group, and they would do all the instruments.
Okay.
Right? So there'd be a musical instrument tech. So they'd
Right.
tune up the guitar, tune up the sitar, I think they used to use was one of them,
Yep.
keys, and drums. So, and that's not me. I'm not tuning your guitar, you know. So those guys are great because, you know,
They can do it
they're
all.
multifaceted
Yeah,
and multi-talented.
for sure.
And there's matinees and there's 3 shows a day or whatever. Those guys are able to turn it around. So they will be full-time in the theatre. But, you know, a lot of techs, it changes all the time. COVID messed a lot up, and a lot of things were cancelled, and some guys never came back from that. So it is very connected.
Yeah.
But just like the nature of the job, you're in the dark a lot.
Sure.
You know, I'm a bit more outgoing, more proactive about my own career, and
Yeah.
I care about other guys' careers. If I'm not doing something, I want to know what you're doing, so I'll reach out to Robbie Cope or Larry Crow. He's out with Toto, great drummer. You got to talk to
Okay.
him sometime.
Yeah.
I'm his #1 fan. Great drummer, great tech. You know, these are guys who've been doing it forever. He tech for Vinny, tech for Simon. You
Yeah.
know, I'd if I could afford him, I'd have him tech for me.
Yeah.
He's that good.
Yeah,
So there's
to take the
guys
pressure
out
off.
there who are that good, that have been doing it
Yeah.
for a long time.
Let me ask you this. This will be my last question. I'm super interested. That's why I keep firing it at
No,
you. But
please, yeah,
but
sure.
so how big or famous do you think you need to be to have a drum tech? Like
I
what's,
don't think you need to be famous at all. I think you need to be busy, and I think you need to be particular.
There you go.
Because there's guys, man. There's guys who are doing Disney songs. There's guys who are doing cruises. There are guys doing stuff that we hear that are unrecognized.
Right.
And I get excited about that, about coming across someone who played at the Chinese State Circus, and I find my way in there. I'll find a way in.
Yeah.
And I get to talk to them and say, that show was great. And you find out they're these monster drummers. Or they're doing doing that.
And they're not famous.
Not famous,
They're-
no. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of them, if the guys I know who, I think I know what you mean. Like, for instance, Larry from U2 and I went to the same drum teacher.
okay.
And we both went different directions. I'm still trying to be a Jedi on the drums.
Right.
I'm still working on it every day. I didn't play yet today. I came straight here, but I was thinking about it all day.
Yeah.
Had a quick look at my drum kit before I come out.
Yeah.
You know, I looked at it like it
Wow.
makes me that happy. And Larry went to the same
Yeah.
teacher. I think I went the whole way. I was 8 years. I was many years with John, and the later years I was helping him out, and I just wanted to be around him. Well, Larry wanted to be in a band, and he formed U2. It's just ridiculous. He never wanted to, you know, work on chops per se. He wanted to be in a band.
Right.
So some great drummers, and I do think he's a great drummer, are in bands and in situations we're not even aware of.
Right. Sure.
Not even, it wouldn't be possible to know them all. But to have a drum tech, if you're busy and you know your sound, and it means you're going to take the pressure off me to be able to do
Yeah.
the times I've had help,
Right.
I definitely play better. Do you play better if your kit's set up for you?
Yes.
I do. I definitely do.
Yes. And as a
There
matter
you
of
go.
fact, it was just a
play
few
better.
weeks ago. There's this place in Marietta that I play called McCleary's.
Okay.
And now they have a house kit. And I think that
And they just got it, so
they
it's still
just
really,
got it.
really
And
nice.
everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
everyone's talking about it.
We don't
Now-
have to move our drums.
And those same people are going to destroy
And the guy-
it.
Yes.
And the guy that runs the sound, he's a drummer too, and he's a customer. And I was one of the first bands to play on the set here.
Oh, that's great.
And I was so happy to not have to like set up my there was no pressure.
Yeah.
And I realized then that part of the pressure was the anticipation of I have to carry my stuff in.
Yeah.
I have to set it all up. There was
tough.
none of that. I brought my cymbals in, and I had my cymbals, I had my pedal, and I had my throne, and of course my sticks, just in case.
Your
like-
whole rig.
yeah, but everything else was perfect. They had a DW 5000 pedal. And I just put my cymbals on, and I was the first person to pack up, and I was ready to go. I was asking the other guys in my band if they needed help. For a
That's
change.
awesome.
Which has
And you
never
had
happened.
you had
Yeah.
like an hour at least free.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you
was
just
so
stepped
relieved.
on and played. And yeah, so I don't think I think maybe you could attribute the cost of having someone, because some guys are on a retainer.
Yep.
Sure.
Abe, I believe, is on a retainer with Paul McCartney.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. Great for Paul, great for Abe. That's a perfect, if there's such a thing, situation. So he's not going to be on downtime.
Mm-hmm.
And the downtime that Paul would have, he can do records for people and still know that he has that great gig. So there's that whole commercial, financial,
Yeah, there's that
contractual
element.
side of it.
For sure.
You know, and you get calls to do things. All of us get. I get offered things a few times a year. Gets less and less because of the nature of how I've built my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a home guy. I'm able to do all my music from where I am.
Yeah.
An hour and a half from here, and I choose not to go crazy around the world. And I've been offered it a few times, and we pass it on, of course. But the issue people need to know is when you're on downtime, you have to let people know, hey, I'm available. I remember a good friend of mine in Ireland saying, you have to put your hand up and let people know you're available, because they're not going to think of it.
That old saying, if
Right.
you don't ask, you won't get it.
Maybe, maybe Adam's, he's doing well enough with his store. He's too busy. You say, no. I have a couple of hours a month I can put to being in another band.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was good advice. This guy, has been on huge tours.
You have to ask. You have to ask.
He has to put his hand up to say, hey,
Sure.
I'm available for work. It is work at the end of the day.
Yep.
For sure.
And often crew, catering, even the guys who do the loaders who push the boxes in, I always chat to them, and
Yeah.
I see them, because I know sometimes they do it to be close to the band that maybe they're working for, and they don't have any more responsibility than loading in. And we're all part of it. We're all part of this whole machine.
It's the ecosystem. It
Yep.
really is. And
The
each
store,
band has
everything.
it. Each band is their own small thing, but then that expands out to, other groups, which very closely relates to shops, and community, and then that ties back into how all these artists got started learning in the first place.
Yeah, and one kink in it, or one break in the chain along the way, can break someone's confidence and say, I don't want to be part of this, because it's already hard.
Yeah.
So I think techs, good managers, good publishers, anyone that's got your corner to make you do what you do better is valuable.
Yeah.
The drum tech role has expanded far past what I'm capable of doing. I'm okay with that.
And a lot of drummers, are using electronics now too, and you have to be well adapted to. Oh, okay, he's using this Roland or this Yamaha. Like, you got to know how to go in and work all those features. And if something goes down, you need to be able to fix it.
Yeah,
So-
backups and stuff like that, and contingency protocol.
Sure.
Whether it's electronic drums, a lot of the drummers start the shows now. They run the clicks. It's fantastic.
It's not just going in and making sure the drums are tuned. There's
Yeah,
so
no.
many more levels to it.
But
No.
hey, we're talking gear. We're about to jump into our next segment here called Hall of Fame, where
Awesome.
we're gonna dive into more gear. So hold that thought. Hall of Fame.
Isn't it ridiculous?
It is.
It's too
and
much
actually,
fun.
I remembered it
much fun.
as you're talking and realizing how connected you are to all these different things and people. I didn't know what to expect. I know what I was thinking and feeling earlier. I felt like I'm out of my element here.
Right.
No, you're actually.
No, I'm just kidding.
You're
Yeah.
actually
I'm
not.
like,
You're
wow. I'm
You're
like,
in
really?
it.
Yeah, I'm in the element. Yes,
you are
yes.
actually
Yeah, I'm
are.
in the element.
Because
And-
somebody's always having
Yeah.
an experience that, or gear that you don't have.
Right.
I do know, and I appreciate what you're saying. And hey, I'm from a village in Ireland. I live in a place right now that's similar to home. So I guess, just mindset and being positive and wishing about gear. And well, yeah, I worked hard, and I was conservative with my money mostly.
You're very intentional, and that's a common thread with every guest we've had on. You don't get involved with the music industry and be successful at making money in it unless you're very intentional, you've sacrificed a lot, and you've been hyper focused on where you want to go.
Yeah.
You know, like even when you're talking to different work, and you decided what kind of life you want. What do you want to focus on? I want to focus on family. I want to be here. It's all decision. It's an incredible decision.
And you can't do it all. You can't own it all. Where would you put it? I do wonder that.
We ran out of room.
Yeah.
We probably only have like 30 drum sets.
I'll
here.
just
We're
have to
already
buy
out of
2
room.
kits on the way out the
All
door.
right,
No,
right. I think you need that Power V.
If it was black, I'd be leaving with it.
I know it.
We have some spray paint out back.
Spray painted up. No, but let's dive into some gear talk. So Shawn and I decided to make our own Hall of Fame because everyone has their own. All these phony award shows kind of inspired us to be like, okay.
And we believe it's true.
We believe it's true. We said it's a thing.
There's a committee. We're like, wait a second. We can have a Hall of Fame. We're the committee. We're the deciders. Let's do it.
It's a group of people with an opinion.
Yeah. We are the committee. I love that.
Yeah.
That's
it's
it.
your
we
world,
are the
man.
board of directors. I always joke. I'll check with the committee. I'll check with the board of directors. I'll check with the powers that be.
That's funny.
We're the powers that be. We're the decision makers.
That's us. I'll get back to you. Let me check with management.
Yeah.
Hey, Shawn.
Turn around. Yeah.
You're an island. You're an island.
We're an island.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's funny.
But we like to talk about gear and highlight some things. So this some of these have been new products that we think are game changers and awesome concepts. Some of them have been tried and true things. This one is more of the latter. So we are going to induct our 13th inductee into the Hall of Fame today.
Okay.
Thank you for the drum roll. 13th inductee into the Drum Key Hall of Fame is the Tama Iron Cobra. And Iron Cobra spans a lot of different things. Most folks think of the pedal, of course. You can get a matching hi-hat stand. You can get a remote hi-hat stand. Mm-hmm. You can get all sorts of stuff. Now there's Iron Cobra 200 through 900, which is technically flagship. But Shawn brought his dirty old Iron Cobra.
Well,
Shawn,
this was in my car.
Is this your pedal?
This is my pedal, and I do have a story behind this,
talk.
too. Now, I've been at this a long time here at Drums Etc., and I've sold many, many Iron Cobras. And this was always my go-to pedal, too. And the story behind this was I've had this pedal for 24 years. I bought this in the year 2000 at the Drums Etc. Queen Street location, which was in downtown Lancaster. Mm-hmm. I was taking lessons down there at the time. I didn't work there then, but I was going in. I was a youngster. Some punk kid. And I went in first. I wanted to upgrade my drum pedal, and I got a Pearl Eliminator drum pedal. Right? They had just come out with the Eliminator, and I had a Pearl Export drum set.
First gen.
So I was one of those guys.
I remember those.
I need a Pearl. They came out with the flagship pedal, Pearl Eliminator. I'm like, oh, cool. Mm-hmm. I got the belt drive, right? So I got it home, and I broke it. I broke the belt, right? So it's so new, they didn't have the replacement parts for these belts. So they had to order one in. Now, I'm calling the shop all the time, like, where is it? Where is it? Mm-hmm. Finally, I brought my pedal in, or they told me to bring it in. They just robbed one off of another pedal, put it on for me.
There's some Drums Etc. service for you, man.
They put it on for me. I broke it again. I broke it at a gig up the street at Yip Rock, which we were talking about, that little club.
Did you have a drum tech that was there with the second pedal? Oh.
But I borrowed another drummer's pedal, and it sucked. So then I brought the pedal back. I'm like, I don't want this anymore. And I remember Rick telling me, like, he came out and said, okay, fine, because it broke twice, and now it's been a month, you know? He's like, pick out any pedal you want. And then I picked out the Iron Cobra. And this is my go-to pedal now. I mean, not now, but always has been. And it's my go-to pedal to sell someone if they want a quality pedal. This thing has been around. It's been through many different incarnations, but it still kind of looks like this. But the newer ones are a little more slick, and they've had some upgrades where it's easier to fix and repair all the parts, because everything on this pedal is fixable, repairable, replaceable, right down to like the hoop clamp assembly and the very pitch beater holder and the
chain,
everything.
We sell all those parts.
We sell all these parts, and this is a solid pedal, and it disattaches very easily. Fits right in my case, and this has been with me since the year 2000.
Don't let Aaron hear it squeak.
Yeah,
You guys easy?
a little bit.
It's not too bad.
It's a little loose.
It needs attention for sure.
It does.
It needs a little love.
I think it needs a new spring.
You know, I'm shifting around.
It's
here.
a little ratty.
Look at him. He's squirming.
He's
squirming.
I want
over
to
here.
take it.
You want to take it and fix it up
dust.
for me?
I just want to take it and put it on the bench and tear it down. And
Yeah.
Clean it all up.
Yeah.
Rebuild it.
Yeah.
Well, but that's, I mean, there's also a testament to, you know, you're out there doing it, you know, and gear does take a beating when it's out there.
This is the stuff you don't see.
Yeah.
You don't see it. You know, if you're at home, it'll be a bit of carpet, it'll be sticks and stuff, and that'll be it. But when you're out doing stuff, it's getting stuff from the outside on your shoe.
Yeah.
You know, it's getting stuff that's already
A
on
little
the
Velcro on the bottom.
on the stage. You know, they
Yeah.
go through a lot, and it's taking your weight. The Iron Cobras were, I had a '93 Iron Cobra
Silver.
single pedal, the original one.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I got the Letterman kit, actually it happened to come with it, and
So what's this Letterman kit you keep talking about?
well, when I teched with Stuart on the Letterman show, he used the Tama Star Classic that was custom made, and then I got to acquire it,
Wow.
which was amazing. Yeah, and he actually used my double Iron Cobra on that show and all my hardware
That's cool.
Wow.
and snare, yeah, and
That's pretty
the
cool.
shells, yeah, and then Peisty provided all the cymbals, which I also acquired, which was pretty amazing. So it was just a
Yeah.
crazy, amazing experience. Myself and
Yeah,
Jeff Seitz,
absolutely.
Jeff being his #1 guy, and he led the charge, and we opened the kit the night before. I brought all my hardware, including the double pedal, in a case like that for Stuart to use, and he did sound check with it, and he loved the whole thing, and he's a Tama guy over
Yeah.
40 years. There's-
sure.
He was one of the
there's-
first too.
yeah,
Like,
one of the first. Him
Yeah.
and Simon, yeah. So he used my double Iron Cobra for that performance, and it did the job. You
That's
know,
rad.
That's great.
Yeah,
Iron
it's
Cobra
great.
on the stage.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, just because you mentioned Stuart again. Let's talk about Stuart Copeland's snare sound. You've had direct experience with it. How much of it is where how the drum's tuned, what it's made of, how he hits, his stroke. How
Yeah.
much of it is, what where do the sliders go as far as how much of Stuart's sound is Stuart versus that drum?
it's all of those things. Stuart's in fader 1, snare is in fader 2, head tuning, little bit of positioning, how he holds the stick. All of those are up to 10. That Stuart will play the snare that comes out of the box that the guys can buy from you. The same snare. There's no modifications. There was a 40th anniversary snare. I was fortunate to get one of those, but what you see with Stuart is all organic. He likes it tuned up, up, up.
Oh,
he
yeah.
likes to crank them.
And
He's
he
got
likes
that thing cranked, the rim
Yeah.
shots in there, and
yeah, and he holds the stick in traditional grip, but he threads it through the 4th and 5th finger. So he threads it different.
wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. He'll to get that extra swing,
Yeah.
to get that extra pop on the snare.
Yeah.
For it to cut through from way back in the day, he wanted it to cut
Sure.
through. The original snare was a pearl snare, which I
Okay.
seen. I was fortunate to visit his place, and I saw the snare. I think
Yeah.
he calls it the snare. He has it written on it.
Yeah.
And it was set up with his Tama kit, so it's
Wow.
quite the experience. So he's very intentional.
Yeah.
He's very like a lot of the great guys. They
Sure.
know what works, and they have their, which is nice. They have their signature sound. And
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate that I have Copeland limited signature kit,
For sure.
and
That's
it's
cool.
the same as
Freddie, grab a chair, hang out, man.
it's the same as
Yeah.
what he plays.
What he
So
plays.
it's
If you
him.
wanted to call Stuart Copeland right now, could you?
No,
Okay.
no.
If you want to call Stuart Copeland's drum tech.
Yeah, yeah. Jeff's great.
Jeff's great guy.
Great guy. I mean, these guys were real. They went around back in the day in just a small crew. They came here to take over and
Oh
play,
yeah, I have
know.
the police what it was the documentary that Stuart Copeland made, because he had that video camera. I've
Oh,
watched it 100
yeah.
times. That
yeah.
because they really did come over to just take over, Yeah.
and
They were very intentional with it.
Yeah.
That's the magic word.
yeah,
Intentional.
intentional.
That might
That's,
be-
that
there's
might be the
something about-
word of this podcast.
This might be the title.
the one.
Something
Intentional.
About
Yeah.
intentional.
But yeah, his sound
approach.
is it's like I say. I'm being honest. It's all up. It's all him.
Yep.
You could throw him any mic you like on it, but you're still going to get
You're
the
gonna get
Stuart
his
sound.
sound.
There's no trickery. I mean, okay, there's a bit of echo on a few things, and there's triggering. I think every breath you take just has a snare trigger, just for authenticity for the song, for the record.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's all Stuart. It's all real. If you watch him tonight on
yeah.
YouTube,
That's it.
it's just drums and cymbals, Stuart.
That's it.
I like all the guys who are like that. Simon Phillips, open tuning,
Yep.
big drums, big. You know, he knows exactly what he wants. I
Yeah.
love those guys.
And he knows how to get it out of those drums. You know,
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
like, get those big old drums, man. You know how to play them.
Yeah, also a
And-
Tarma artist. You know.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Tama's freaking the best, dude.
But I mean,
Dude, Iron Cobra is insane. I have, and the whole way down now too. And I I've got like a 200 set with a rolling kit right now. That's what's on there, and it feels great,
Yeah,
plays
I
great.
have
I do want to address the elephant in the room that drummers completely ignore. That the name Iron Cobra is ridiculous. Have you ever said it around a non-drummer?
I've
I've
thought
gotten the
about
weirdest,
it.
like, Iron Cobra, what? Like a snake?
Yeah.
A cobra is a snake,
And
and,
it's
this is made of
iron.
It's like it's the goofiest name that we
It
casually
really
like.
is.
Oh yeah, an Iron Cobra.
yeah,
Oh,
nobody
yeah.
questions it. Yeah, I
No
think
one
it was the
questions
whole attack thing.
Yeah.
Just have a spring underneath. I think it's the whole
Cobra coil?
Yeah, I think it's all that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a Japanese company, it's
Right.
they're making an amazing pedal.
Yeah,
that-
they should be making them in Texas or something. The
Yeah,
Iron Cobra. you
yeah,
know?
it sounds like a pistol,
Right. Yeah. it
you
does.
know. But they've stuck with it, and I see they have a multicolored one now for the 50th.
That's
Yeah,
right. They do.
that's-
But that's great. You've had that so
Splattered,
yeah.
long.
Yeah, I've had this for
Marble.
a long time, and I do have another Tama pedal. I also have a Yamaha pedal, but this is
Yeah.
my kind de go-to pedal that
Yeah.
I've had for all
I
these
used
years.
to have
man.
a chrome one that was gifted to me.
Yeah, the Chrome
by
Cobra.
by Dale's drum shop.
Yep.
With Dale's.
Oh yeah. That's
One
cool.
of it, just real cool. I was visiting and it was
Yeah, man.
there, and I said, "Would you like it?"
Wow.
It was a single chrome Iron Cobra. It just looks. Could put it on
It
your
is
desk.
rad.
It's just a beautiful
Oh,
looking.
absolutely.
Beautiful.
You know.
Yeah,
we've
we
had
had
'em.
one in a studio for years, and it's just
Yeah,
like, wow,
they're just
what a
beautiful.
pedal.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Um,
pedal. We had we just sold a couple years ago when I went to NAMM. Actually, they had limited release of gold ones, so we had a
I
single
remember.
double of the gold.
We had
I
a few
remember.
of
And
those.
usually when they do that, they make the Cobra like 310 version of it, so it's more accessible.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not the 900 price.
Well, it
It's-
gets expensive.
it gets really expensive when you have all the bells and whistles. It gets expensive, but
I
you
remember
only need a
this
couple
thing-
bells to
this was-
really be able to adjust it.
$125 back then. That's how much.
yeah.
I remember it
Yeah.
because it was the same price as
And
the
the box.
Eliminator.
You know,
Actually,
was great.
that's not the original case.
Okay.
Just because the cases are a hard plastic, and the tabs broke over time, so
Oh, yeah,
I
those
just
things-
acquired this one. Like I think we might have sold one without a case,
Right.
and I was like, well, this is mine now.
They're a good
so.
case though. They
Yeah,
were.
it's a good case. Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
not the original case.
That's great. Iron Cobra.
Iron
Woo!
Cobra.
Books in the Hall of Fame.
It deserves it. It deserves
It
it.
deserves it. It's been it's due time. Due
Yep.
time for the Cobra.
Excellent.
All right, let's pop into the next segment. Quick question. We're back on camera, and I'm excited to watch Shawn
Yeah.
do this next trick. Quick question. I love this segment because this is the easiest thing to come up with stuff for because so many people walk in the drum shop, hey, quick question, and you know that your answer is not going to be quick. You know what I mean? Like,
It's
I'm just stopping in. They always look like they're in a rush. Oh, yeah, quick question for you. And then they hit you with a bomb, and you're like,
Yeah.
as Shawn says, qualifying them and trying to
Yep.
come up with, like, okay, what's the best answer? How can I get to the point quickly?
Right.
The quick question for today, we've been hit with many, many times. This is a question that I had to revisit recently. Here we go. Quick question, guys. All right, I'm ready. How or where do I find a band?
Brilliant.
Okay, hold on a sec. That reminds me of another thing that I've been hearing a lot lately, and that
Okay.
is do you know any place that has rehearsal space that they can rent? Like
That's another one.
I've gotten that question a lot this week, so much so that I'm like, man, we need to freaking
need
open
to
up
open a rehearsal
spot.
space.
Yeah,
We used to have one at our old shop,
Yeah.
and it was crazy, but everyone wanted the same slot. So it
Right.
was like
Yeah.
it sat empty all
Yeah.
day. And
Saturday
then those last
morning.
few hours, yeah.
but say that question again.
Where do I find a band? How do
Right.
I find a band?
Okay, yeah, that is not a quick question,
Yeah.
as I always say, but
Yeah, I recently just revisited this because basically I just stopped all of my projects like gigging out when I took over the shop about 2.5 years ago.
Right.
There's enough here. As Shawn actually forbid me from dating.
I did.
In that time as well. He said, "This is too important, Adam. It's too important.
Yeah.
No distractions.
We got to get this done.
I did.
You
I said-
you live, eat, breathe, drum shop. This can be your only focus. This is my livelihood."
yeah, I
That's
said you
funny.
need
Yeah.
to concentrate. Women are going to be a distraction. You're not allowed to date. I've since lifted that rule,
It's true.
but
It's
he,
true.
he hasn't done anything about it though. So.
I started with the band. I started with the band. The girlfriend will come later.
Right.
But it's really funny when you have to, start over. Because I was in bands like since I started playing in high school, like different projects. This person I met, this gigging, this to that. You know what I mean? But then
Yeah.
you're cut off from it from a while. And it's almost like, oh shoot, like you said, you're not. You got to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm ready to play. And luckily through a couple teachers here, actually, I got a couple gigs. I'm doing a subbing gig tomorrow, playing downtown, and I got another opportunity with another band. We went out to see him, introduced myself, started the networking thing again from my new perspective. But what do you say when someone's ready? We get students asking us this that just
Sure.
learned how to play, so that perspective is always fun. Like, how do I start my first band? And my follow-up question is like, well, do you have any friends? Which seems brutal, but that's how I started. So it's like,
Me too.
from my experience,
Yeah.
like,
I don't know. Did you start like in high school with your buddies in high school? Start playing in a
I
band?
actually didn't. I was kind of lucky. My dad was a singer,
right.
so there was that. But also, I did give myself the journey of playing in, you call them garage bands.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we didn't really have garages at home, or
Right.
garages as they say in Ireland. We were in
Car
people's
hole.
We're in
lounges.
America. Let's
Yeah,
We
come
call
on.
them
People
car
can't
holes.
understand what you're saying.
yeah, keep it real. We were in lounges, front rooms of houses, gardens,
Yeah.
sheds. So I was obsessed with drums from the start. So I would play anywhere. So while I was doing the thing with my dad, which was a serious thing, we were going out and doing shows for people, weddings, functions, wearing
Sure.
tuxes,
Yeah.
doing a proper. I still wanted the rock and roll experience and grow as a drummer. So I've played with hundreds of bands, and it would be, he drums, he has a drum kit. Sometimes it was because you had a car. You got your license first.
That's how it starts out.
You had a
You were
guitar.
absolutely right.
And we'll go
That's
to
it.
the drummer's house because he doesn't drive yet.
That's it.
Well, I was driving and had drums, and you could come over to my house. So people it was two ways. I went to them, they came to me. And it worked out, didn't work out. There was always a member that didn't work out. There was a member that didn't. We'll call them members.
Yeah.
A personnel who didn't show up.
Yeah.
And so people get disparaged really quick.
Yeah.
Yes.
But to go back to the question, to me, it's like if I was asked this question today.
Yes. Today, right now,
And
how do I find
And
a
you
band?
were asked today. I mean,
Yeah.
I still live in the 80s, but it's kind of like approaching it to singing. So I want to sing in a band, and I sing a bit, but I'm a much better drummer.
Mm-hmm.
Much better drummer. But I'm a decent singer, but I'm a much
Okay.
better drummer. And so I say, well, so we are talking drums, but let's say
No,
it's like
let's say
singing.
Same thing. You're
How
looking for a
well
band.
do you sing? Because you can't just say, I want to be in a band. I mean, you deserve to be in a band. You're trying drums. You should try to be in a band.
Yeah.
You should. The Beatles did it. Genesis did it. Everyone, Led Zeppelin, everybody we love did it.
Yeah.
But some of them were born and developed talent really early. So my point is, how well do you sing? How
Yeah.
well do you drum?
Where are
How
you in
good
that
a
journey?
person are you? I mean, I'm not expecting you to have a fully fledged personality at 16.
Sure.
However, how well do you sing? Because that's a distraction and it's not an attraction if you show up and you're croaking.
Yep.
So you have to, what are you bringing?
Yeah. Are you ready?
Are you ready? Or is everybody ready to just make a joyous noise in a garage
Yep.
and not be annoyed about it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that was a downfall of mine. I took it all too seriously. I treated every band
Well, you
practice.
started out with a pro gig.
I know. Yeah,
You did
but
it out of order.
Yeah.
I know. I was still a bit. I was still a bit tense, to be honest with you. And I know
Yeah.
that now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 50 now. I know.
Sure.
I took it really, and it was said to me, and
yeah.
I apologize to
Yeah.
those guys. I I said, come on, we got to be early. We got to be on time. So we have to answer these questions to these guys and have to try and help them.
Right.
I say, go home and develop yourself a bit. And networking to me is huge.
Massive.
And now it's a lot
Huge.
easier to network too.
Yeah.
So my answer would be put yourself out there. It's like, how do I get into a band? Put yourself out there. There's so many different, so with social media and all that kind of stuff, it's so easy to kind of put yourself out there. But what, Aaron is saying here is, where are you in that journey?
Right.
Are you ready for that pro band?
You got to be ready to put yourself out there.
But sometimes you have to fail to know where you are.
Oh, sure. My God, yeah.
I thought I was way better than I was back then.
Yeah.
And now I know I'm not that good.
Yeah, I was too tense.
Studio
realize that,
audience has a contribution.
Can I add to this?
Yes.
I've noticed too nowadays, especially.
I will
you
repeat what
open
he
mic
says
nights.
momentarily. Open mic nights.
Go out to an open mic.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
and
it. Networking.
Participate in that because there's plenty of other musicians out there that are doing the same thing you're doing, trying to get to know other people.
That's a good way to meet other musicians is at an open mic night. And we get a lot here. Tons of drummers coming in looking for a band. It's like, you should be going to the guitar shop.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be going to the drum
Yeah,
shop.
that's a good point.
It's
Yeah.
great to talk to other drummers.
Yeah, you're gonna take
But
the
how many
drummers.
drummers are in each band?
That's a good
It's
point.
a simple mathematics problem here, guys.
Yeah, it's hard. Sometimes it's the conversation. I mean,
It is.
music stores where
It is.
you
They're
could
hubs.
converge and hear things and find out what you're doing and you're
And then
doing.
the gigs that come out of that are recommendation gigs. Like both these gigs that I got, other drummers were asked to do it, or they're trying out a drummer here and then get on that
Yeah.
And it's kind of that it's not the thing for me, or I can't take this on right now. You get those referral gigs, but usually to get that type of gig, you have to have some track record. You have to have some
Yeah.
recording of you. You have to have some sort of the other drummer has to be confident in your abilities.
Mm-hmm.
But starting out, okay, now I'm ready for my first band. That's a different thing. Open mics are a great place to go get your feet wet. I remember I went to an open mic and it wasn't even set up for drum set or anything like that. And I just played a cajon. And just I showed up with the instrument.
Right.
I didn't sign up. And
Right.
people asked me to play with them. And then I
Because
met
you
some
put yourself
people.
into that position.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everyone asks, like, how do I get started? And there is no quick answer to that. It's just getting started. That could be
Yep.
the start.
do something.
Making up a
Anything.
flyer could be it.
Just do something.
Going to open mic. Going to your local music store and talking with people. So there's no right or wrong way to do it, but it's just
Right.
a matter of putting the first step forward. Wherever that step leads you is okay, because at least you're taking steps.
Yeah, that's well said. I think you got to network and develop yourself
Yes.
at the same time.
Right.
Not one or the other.
Right.
You can't have super chops and not have people experience.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You have to have people
Gotta have
experience.
both.
And the open nights, I'm not crazy about them. However, I will say, you meet people who are writing original music.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gets very special. That can be baptism.
Yep.
So I'll say, go to the open mics and seek the person that's writing music.
Yep, and that might, I mean, even the direct result of that might be, okay, this isn't the room for me, or this isn't the town for me, or these guys are, this is just, you can very easily assess if it's just a bunch of people who their only goal is to play here at open mic night, and if your ambitions are bigger. A big thing that I heard a while ago, and I love this perspective, is ambition is measured by action. It's not what you say you're going to do. It's what you're actually doing.
Yeah, that's where
So-
I live. I live in that space.
That's it.
And
Proactive, pushing constantly. That's what we try to do here at the shop, is just always be reaching forward, taking on more, just slightly more than we think we can handle, and
Yeah.
rising to the occasion.
if you take someone's number, call them. I have very few regrets, but there's one or two. I just didn't get around to calling them or being there. And then, a couple of them went on to do amazing things, and some of them I never heard.
Right.
Nothing realized. So now I'm like, I remember years ago I got a call from a guy called Jerome Marcus, and we're involved in Drummer Universe, which is this Facebook page.
Yeah.
100,000 drummers on there, and Jerome's an industry guy,
Okay.
and he called me one day to tell me about a Vic Firth education thing that was happening in London. While I'm on the phone to him, I'm like booking a flight. And it's only from Ireland to the UK, but and he said, "Oh, really? I'll be there."
Yeah.
And I actually think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday. I said, the following week, I'll be there. Well, I go, well, Vic Firth is there.
Yep.
and I'm part of the Vic Firth education program, and I signed with them years ago. And here it is. It's a teacher conference. There's 100 drummers there, and he flew from Boston to recognize them. He's talking about this particular dude, and I'll show it to you again because I just found it today. And here he was giving awards to all of us for what we did. Now, had I not flown, I'm like, and that's a major example of following up, following through.
Yes.
And it's not the result of the reward. I did something. I made an effort at my own cost.
Mm-hmm.
I went there. Vic was there. I got to see him, got to thank him, you know. So, you know, follow up because you just don't know what it could be. There are people out there writing amazing music right now.
Yeah.
I'm collaborating with people on TikTok, Instagram, some through Facebook, amazing guitarists, amazing writers from around the world. And it's just about, dude, who are you? Because your playing is amazing. And then they might see my drumming, but the music conversation's what's important. You know, just chatting about, well, what are you up to? What are you looking at? I'm not looking to do anything. Okay, cool.
Right.
You can still stay connected.
Yeah. That's it. And you never
It's not
know
about
when someone's going to recommend you. We talk about that. We have had a couple guys on here who did a lot of touring and stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, not just staying in the van until your next gig.
Right.
You know what I mean? Any chance you get with other bands, with other crews, you know, that turns into... Someone can call you up that you might not have forgotten about, quite frankly, or they recommended you for a gig, and you have to find out later that it was this person that I hung out with after the gig in this town at that year.
A good person. That's
Of
solid.
course.
Keep solid. Keep your chops up.
Yes.
Be organized.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a miracle.
Right.
You just have to be present and be a good dude, and still have your own standards and talent and how you like to do it, and make your choices. And that's how some of the biggest bands in the world were formed, by answering an ad. It's a bit old, but it is real.
It's
I'm
time tested.
I'm a guitarist. I heard you lick, and I'll share that. Right now, where I'm living in Pennsylvania, there's no gigs, and I have an amazing drum life. I'm very grateful for it. There are no gigs.
Well, it's different now because, you know, it used to be you needed those gigs to do things, but now with your TikToks and your Instagrams, and now you can put your drumming out there in different ways.
Yeah.
And there's different ways to, you know, the music business has changed.
It's beautiful. I don't have a million followers, and I'm so fortunate that the companies that you represent here support me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm still
Everyone's
the
changing.
19-year-old guy from Ireland. I still every day self-check
Yeah.
and say, wow, this is amazing. Like, very, very lucky. So you can create your own little life. Another thing I'll share with your viewers is I lived in Nashville for 5 years. I did one gig
Wow.
as a professional drummer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
My choice. You know?
How
You
many
would-
people did you meet there?
Oh, a phenomenal amount of people. I will say that. I mean,
Because that's where
almost
the
everybody's there.
There's a lot where there's a lot of attention. You know, that's like an analogy I'll use right now is you know, Instagram, like, because you mentioned it, is like, yeah, that seems so obvious for everyone. Oh, we got to get on Instagram. Well, it's all supply and demand, and right now the supply is through the roof. That it's hard to get anything out there, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you go to Nashville with the intent of gigging and making it big in your country
There's so
band,
many.
like, the supply of that is here.
Yeah.
Not saying that's not the proper thing to do and you won't learn anything from it or whatever, or you might not make it. You know, people make it. I'm
Yep.
not saying that couldn't be you. It could be you. But I'm just saying if that's your only goal and intent there, like, I'm selling everything, I'm moving there, it's like, you know, you might be setting up yourself for an unrealistic outcome.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
if you also say, I'm going to try that, do all that stuff, but every time I play or go to see a show, I'm going to meet someone new, that's going to reward. You
Yeah.
know, you're going to get so much out of that, no matter what happens with your career.
Yeah, you can't have one goal because it'll be on your back.
Yes.
It'll just be on your back, like rucking around. You're just rucking. It's not. It's honestly not the way to do it. And I've seen abundance of talent in Nashville. I mean, in 5 years, I never witnessed a bad band. And I've been all over the world. I've been in bars all over the world, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here. But Nashville, not once. That's testament to the talent
Sure.
that is there. The female singers, the male singers, the guitarists, the drummers, they're all fantastic. Many of them are trying to take a bite out of the same thing.
Right.
And many of them, some I coached and helped, and it is depressing. It's deflating when you make such a big move to another place in the world.
Yeah.
And it is the right place to be. The songwriting, the publishers, it's all there.
Yep. Everything's there.
But when you have so many people converging in the same space,
All doing
it
the
takes a
same
lot
thing.
to break through.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to break through. And you should do it. If someone's watching this and wants to do it,
Right.
you should do it. Some of my students are there. They're downtown playing gigs.
Yep.
They're working on their chops. They're learning how it is. The industry is not really an industry anymore. You can self-release.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's tough. And when I say I did one gig, I did a gig. It was very good. I got paid. And I made a decision to have a different Nashville experience.
Yep.
I had an amazing 5 years. I have no regrets.
Yeah.
I can say I'm from Ireland. I lived in Nashville.
Uh-huh.
I did a bunch of all sorts of stuff, even being part of a campaign where they were shutting down home studios, the city.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't champion it. I was part of the effort
Okay.
to get the city to see sense that why would you shut down home studios when this is the way we can do things now? And I didn't get anything from it. I just decided to show up and help, and part of the SEE Institute in Nashville, and we worked hard along with others who had their studios shut down, costing them their livelihood. Yeah. Most people don't know that even happened.
I had no idea.
So I was part of that movement. So I did other things in Nashville that made me happy.
Yeah.
I drummed every day. I taught every day.
That's great.
And
That's great, man.
So the short story there is just do your own journey, because you can come in here and get a kit and
Sure can.
get hooked up with software. And it's like I thought your question was going to be, how do I record drums? Which is, but you can do it at home.
That's another one. That's going on the list.
Oh, you
But
can
yeah,
do it.
You
You
can.
can do
Quick
it.
question.
But-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
but
another one.
forming a band is not like a movie.
Right.
It's not like a fairy tale.
No.
It's, I've often been the 17th drummer in something, and the drummer before did it this way, and I found that I understand where you're coming from, and they want to talk about the breakup.
Yeah.
I just kind of try to, I'd like to think you kind of like me and like how I play, and I
Yeah.
will play the parts.
Yeah.
So again, there were things that made me decide that maybe I don't want to do that. And my final thought on it, and I'd love to know what you two guys think, because we're being so open. I don't really like to audition. And it's not my age or experience, or even how I play.
Yeah.
I haven't auditioned that much in my life, and I do think it's important.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real weird thing for me to say you should audition, but I shouldn't. That's
For sure.
excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm still a little bit under the weather. I'm
You're
sorry.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of who's
Is
this
it
guy?
is it a pressure, or is it just
No,
all
I
of the
don't.
unnecessary? You think it's unnecessary?
I don't feel any pressure. And that's not even a confidence. It's just a clarity,
yeah.
because I'm not going to catch fire. I'd just be a terrible drummer and not get the gig. It's okay.
And that's it.
I help people with that. It's okay to,
Yep.
Well, I think I just feel like if somebody calls Shawn, they already know he's got this pedal 25 years and he's a good, very, very good drummer.
Yeah.
Like Sting doesn't audition drummers. That may be a dream gig for me, which I'm not going to get.
Or
But
you might get it because of this podcast.
I was told-
Sting actually watches.
I was
big fan of Drum Key.
we'll get to him. I heard that years ago, and he just likes to do this.
Yeah.
How are you? I'm good. Yeah, with drummers,
Do you wanna,
Omar,
do you want to be? Yeah.
Manu,
Vinny?
yeah. I saw Vinny catch up with him years ago, and I just happened to be there, and they hadn't seen each other for a few years, and they just rehearsed, and it's just. I know Vinny's amazing, but he doesn't audition drummers per se. He
I
doesn't
didn't know
audition.
that. That's awesome.
And I was like, maybe we could all do that.
Yeah.
I know auditions are important. Like if you're going to do a big show or a cruise, there is chemistry, and you need to
yeah.
know. But I'm not saying let's get rid of auditions.
Yeah.
I just feel like finding a band, finding personalities. It shouldn't be an interview.
Right.
It should be, like, I know us three could do lots of other things
Sure.
already.
Yeah, you get more out of the I agree with you. I haven't
Yeah.
heard this brought up in this frame of mind, but I agree with you, and I think that the things that make a great band, if you're in the position that you're talking about going on tour, like you said, Sean's been playing for a while.
Yeah.
If you're in a position that you're willing to do the gig, all you need to know is if this works.
Yeah.
And you can get so
Yeah.
much out of talking with people, and then play together, whatever. But I think the formality of it is unnecessary.
I think someone could fact check it.
Sure.
I think it's how Josh Freese got the gig with Sting.
Oh, really?
He was at a gig, and they chatted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think kind of Sting said, "I'll see you at rehearsals or whatever." I
Wow,
think Josh
okay.
is phenomenal.
I
mean,
would love
there's
if
that, and
story
he
was
would have,
true.
he would have had an idea of his reputation for
Sure.
sure. And-
Right.
but they're talking.
But he
like
didn't
this.
have to say, learn these 12 songs and meet me this day.
Yeah, I like
No.
when bands are like that. I mean, of course, now the Foo Fighters, we're kind of going, but these are bands who have done the thing we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, Sting did Slumber for a minute with complete, and then, but the Foo Fighters did the van thing. They all did that thing,
Yeah.
They sure did.
and it's hard. It's really hard. So the question is, are you gonna try and stuff your kit into your mom's car or a rented car? Are you gonna go that little bit extra out
Yes.
of your comfort zone to be in the band? Because once you form the band, that's not even the work yet.
Yeah, you're just getting started.
Yeah.
And you can tell that from a conversation.
Yeah, see, this guy's just not gonna. Can you be there at 10? Can I be there at 11? Straight away, you're like,
Yeah, you start
Yep.
feeling it.
I told you I'd be here
Yeah.
on time, and you want to see me watching the dash on my
Yep.
phone.
Oh, I know.
I-
You checked your
I-
watch as soon as you walked in the door.
Did I?
You did.
Yeah, I'm a bit. I would hate to be late, and it's our first time meeting, first
Right.
time doing this. It would be okay, because there's
traffic
fog,
was
and
bad
I
or
drove an
whatever
hour and a
else,
half,
you know?
which is no big deal to me at all. I'd drive 20 hours to do this, for real. And my wife would tell you that I would, but I think you need those. There's probably a checklist we should create. There has to be.
And it would be so much
Denim
easier.
jacket,
Yes.
Converse,
Yep.
Irish accent, then you're sorted, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
That's it. The checklist is just describing you.
yeah, but
It's
I
just-
want people to keep forming bands,
Mm-hmm.
and I try and hook people up all the time. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest with your viewers and everybody, the breakdown at any level. Okay, you want to create an album. This guy in London is a great piano player, and the piano player didn't reply, and it's not happening. And it's like, man, but you're over you know.
Yeah.
You said you won't work.
Right.
So, just put it together. And then if that's not working, put it together yourself. A lot of
Yes.
great drummers put their own
Yep.
bands together. A
Yep.
lot of bands are put together by the person who really wanted to do it.
Yep.
And only they know how they're going to do that, whether it's ads or
Yeah.
talking on Facebook. But use it all. And
Yeah.
then filter it.
Of course. That's
Filter
good.
it. Got to filter it.
Filter it.
Because otherwise, yeah, I've been in a few goofy bands and stuff. It's just, hey, we put 4 personalities in a room. Everybody thinks they know what they're doing.
Right.
And that's where the manager got invented, because he has a different vision.
Yeah. And he kind of
He doesn't play. He's not distracted by twirling the sticks or what us guys do or what anyone does. He's like, no, we need to. So that's another good piece of
Another
advice.
role.
If you have something existing right now, bring a couple of other people around that can.
Yep. And it's just like we are talking about
Be
with,
solid.
to make a parallel with instructions and having someone else or even the drum tech thing, that other person that sees what's going on.
Yeah.
And as long as you develop a good relationship with them, when the opportunity comes where you ask for that advice and that opinion, you're going to get a straight answer. 'cause they've
Amazing
been
things
studying
can
you.
happen. Amazing things do happen.
Those small tweaks too. It can be the
Yeah.
smallest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was into martial arts for years, and excuse me. If you watch some of these guys who do the corner for guys, whether it's whoever you like, they're looking at the contest. They're looking at the opposition. They're looking at
Yeah.
some guys are able to walk into a venue and just I know how we're going to make money here. I know what you need to do in rehearsal, you know. And I rehearsed with many bands over the years, and we've wasted a lot of time. Do you ever do that in
Sure.
a band?
Oh, God, yeah.
You
kidding
burn
me?
a lot of time. I'm watching guys outside
Oh, my
smoking,
God.
and I'm inside practicing a drum solo. It's just, we're wasting time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I hate to be the downer. I'm not trying
No,
to...
you're
being-
spot on.
It's
You are
realism,
spot on.
and I'm just resonating with everything you say. That's
You
why
know.
my neck's getting stiff. I'm just nodding.
Well, I'm just
Everything you
like...
say.
I care about this so much, and I see,
Yeah.
I've watched guys, and I'm like, oh my God, these guys are
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Like, they're just so focused.
Yeah.
Like, I played a couple of shows with friends of mine in Ireland called God is an Astronaut. They're instrumental. And we're the same age, and I've watched them since we were kids just be so focused. And they have the exact music life that they want. Lloyd, also the drummer, great drummer. I like to mention good people, you know,
Of
give
course.
them credit.
Yeah.
When other
Of
people
course.
don't mention, I'm all about that. Like we talked about, there's people
All day
out there,
long.
nobody mentions them.
All day long.
Lloyd Hanning's a great drummer, and I sat in for him, and it was a pleasure. And I watched these guys. They're twin brothers, and they're so focused. You have to check them out. And their show is awesome. And their dad was a great visionary and a great manager. So and a
There's
great,
that perspective.
yeah, and he was a great musician in his day, similar to my dad. You know, guided me. So you know, maybe before you form the band, go to that person and ask them. Local, even come into you guys.
Yeah.
I know that's how we started this question.
It
But
is.
say, listen, hey, yeah, the open mics, all that stuff. But how about we go another level? Get your chops down. Get yourself a good setup. Because if you get the call, you don't have to have drum mics and stuff like that. Just have a good rig. Rehearse putting it in and out of your car.
That's
No,
Gotta do that.
clean your pedal.
Yeah,
Well,
clean
you have
your
to know how
pedal,
it fits
Shawn.
because you don't want to like get your drums all ready to go and it doesn't fit right, or your
Well,
your hardware case
yeah.
doesn't
That's
fit
it.
into your car.
This is all the easy stuff. It's the due diligence easy stuff.
Easy stuff that means a lot.
Hugely
Because by
important.
the time it gets bigger, there's people that will take over. There are people who have become overnight sensations and they don't know what to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would be the same
And
if I was suddenly
Yeah.
mega. Well, there are people that will handle it because they're going to get paid, but they're experts. And they're the
Right.
people I love that do audio visual, that do lighting,
Yep.
that do logistics. I love the guys, like, I always try and befriend the truckers.
Yeah.
I was at a thing at the Rock here some months ago.
Yeah.
And I try and, when I say befriend, have a conversation with those guys. I watched this guy reverse a truck in that had wardrobe for the Rock, for a production over there. And I'm like, this guy's amazing. As soon as he got out of the truck, he's got the headset. He just
Yeah.
looks like
He's the
business.
pro. Yep.
I had to have a conversation with him. Well, it turns out he's driven trucks all over the world in temperatures, storms.
Yep.
And
And
you
he's
ha-
going to get you your next gig.
Well, you know,
Network with everyone, man. I'm telling you.
those guys have lots of layers to them.
Absolutely.
They speak different languages, and there's just special people out there. And so, if you're putting anything together,
Yes.
you should talk to a couple of other people outside it. That
Outside
could maybe,
that circle.
The guy driving the
That's
truck,
maybe
the
how-
guy bringing
That's
in
a
the
great way.
equipment,
That's a
the
great
guy
way to start.
doing the lights.
I think so.
That's a great way to start. And putting projects together. Certain people are that way. I find myself being the one, and I talked to Shawn about this, that I'm like, I just want to be the drummer. Can I just be the drummer?
Yeah,
but I
not the
always
organizer.
find myself like, okay, move this piece here, move that,
Right.
which works out great for the shop, but I'm always doing that, and then I'm just like, but I don't want to be the guy that does this always, but you would be great with this person, and it's just that I'm
That's
good
how
at
we're
backing
wired.
out, zooming out, which is really good.
Drummers are, organized. We have to be there a little bit earlier.
Yep.
Even the worst drummer in the world, unless he just doesn't show up, will be there at least on time for him
Right.
Yeah.
to get his gear in.
Yep.
Now I'll be early, and I'll be up in 17 minutes, and then I'm waiting for Murphy's Law. That's just
What's
the
gonna
way.
go wrong?
And I enjoy that. It sounds
Yeah,
crazy,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
You enjoy the challenge.
I
Like,
enjoy
oh,
being
okay.
on time, and I like someone
Yeah.
to say, "Wow, this guy's transformer done."
Yeah.
I know the set, whatever.
Yep.
And still stuff happens, but even the drummer who's a little bit not part of the magic circle, shall we say? And there's not that many of them, because that's what I think we are. We're the magic circle. Only we give our tricks away. That's how I see drummers.
That's all we do all day long.
We just share whatever. Borrow my snare here.
That's it.
Yeah. Whereas the Magic Circle are very secretive, so I think we're that kind of
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
But there are, of course, the exceptions where they're not that great, but they're even going to show up and get their gear in.
Yeah.
But the knock-on effect is just stress.
Yeah.
He's late, I'm late, and then it becomes a trend.
Yep. And then he was the second drummer, and you were the 13th drummer.
Yeah, and then they kill me.
And they tell you about him.
They tell me about They
All
tell
right,
me
let's
about
jump in. We have one more episode. We have one more segment where we.
Great.
I have a couple of specific questions about your journey and things that you're doing now.
Sure.
So I want to get into that. Let's go to Between the Plies. All right,
She's one of the
so
few.
Between the Plies here, we like to jump into some things. See you, Freddie. We have a couple. I have a couple specific things that we didn't touch on. We touched on a lot of your journey throughout this. You know, obviously we're all pulling from our own examples and experiences, but there's a couple things that we didn't touch on that I'm really interested in. You have an initiative called Beat Bullying
Yeah.
as
I
part
do.
of your drumming academy thing,
Yep.
right? Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I love this idea, and
Sure.
I've seen other businesses in other industries similar to what we do, as far as like a drum shop or something, and they always have this this other sort of if you want to call it philanthropy, or if you want to call it
Sure.
somehow supporting the community in a way that's not directly tied to what they're doing, but is targeted at a goal. And I would love to do something like that as a shop in addition. And I love your concept of it. I was reading up on it a little bit, but if you could just give a brief overview of kind of what that is, how that came about, and how you're integrating it into what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate you checking that out. So beat bullying came about. I was bullied very badly.
Okay.
And fortunately, I went on to live and still live a great life.
Yeah.
Unaffected, just inspired,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is very lucky, because what I experience in others in society, no matter where I've been in the world, okay, I'm from Ireland, so I'm 14 plus years in the United States. So I spent most of my life living in Ireland, and I witnessed a lot of bullying. So in my journey as a drummer, tangent to that, and equally as obsessive, I was into martial arts. I still
Okay.
am. It's still a real big part of who I am, how I think, how I act, how I react,
Right.
and how I impact. So it made sense to me that when I was starting to offer drum lessons and I was coming up and getting better at martial arts, that people were coming to me for drum lessons. And then when they were doing that, you build trust with people. And they're teenagers and upwards. It's mostly my own age group initially, of course. You teach your own
Right,
age group.
right.
And then it became everybody. And so then I started, once I could afford to, having the Beat Bullying initiative, where I give music experiences, mostly through drums, of course, because that's my expertise, if I can say. I would give free drum lessons to individuals to help them build confidence. They don't necessarily have to become drummers. So
Right.
I was sensitive about that and I was very private about it, because I didn't want it to become a self-promotion thing.
Right.
That's the double-edged sword of this.
Yeah.
So what would happen is, then the reason I mentioned martial arts, people come for self-defense, people come for sport, people come for engagement. You start to also realize others who share their story. So then I was like, okay, I could probably, or I will put these both together
Yeah.
in a way. So, I've been doing that for decades now. And actually, it's funny you bring it up, because I just took a full-time job at a school.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't get to tell you that. I went to the superintendent at my son's school and I said, listen, I'll tell this really quick.
Yeah.
We'll go back to Beat Bullying then, because it is part of it. I said, I come in service. I've had a great life. I'm still having a great life. I've still a lot of plans. I have a relationship with him. He said, okay. I said, my wife has told me you've got positions in the school, and I don't know what that looks like for me, but I'd like to come in part-time every now and then, work with the kids, all the kids, from elementary to teenagers, special ed to kids that need extra attention, I'm your guy if
Yeah.
that's something that would work. He said, I don't know what I was expecting. He said, we'd love to have you. And I'm like in the meeting going, well, okay.
Yeah.
So then a few days later, I was given an interview. This was a few weeks ago. And then a few days after that, I was offered a full-time job. So
Wow.
so I accepted it. So I'm at I'm at the high school, full-time every day.
Yeah. So is it like a counselor type position?
It's
like
it's called a
traditional?
paraprofessional. So
Okay.
I'm there assisting all the teachers, and my role has
Oh, okay.
it's expanding in the last couple of weeks to being whatever I can be to whoever needs it.
That's
So I
great.
was walking the
Yeah.
corridors the other day, and now I decided they're called the Southern Tigers, and I'm like, I'm going to write a song called Roar because they have an initiative called Roar. So I went straight down to the music department. This is the way my brain works, so your
Yep.
listeners know. I think of an idea and then I try and go with it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have the key. I'm gonna write the song. They're gonna sing probably the verse, roar, blah blah. On the way back from the music room, I said, "Well, hold on a minute. I'm standing as a nucleus around all these kids, and there are kids who need help, and there are kids who are being bullied we don't even know about.
Of course. Yeah.
So I'm gonna pitch it to the school. Say, hey, listen, there's no promotion. We could do this privately. Let's help kids who are suffering intimidation, victimization, harassment, worse, sometimes abuse, physical abuse. It's happening everywhere. It's
Yeah.
happening all over the world. I've had great results over the years, but I'll be honest with you, I think the war is far from over. It's quite bad now. I also help adults. Just spoke with an adult this morning, just approached me and say, hey, somebody said, I could talk to you, and
Yeah.
I went, absolutely, we can.
Yeah.
So putting someone behind the drum kit builds their own self-worth and their value. So I give free drum lessons.
Absolutely.
And they don't even have to do that. A lot of the time they don't play, we talk. And it's just another thing they can do that maybe build their confidence. My intention also was, I taught kickboxing for many years, was to open my kickboxing school in December. And ironically, my chiropractor has a space above his place.
Yeah.
But I'm getting ready to have spine surgery in March.
Okay.
So it's affected me a lot.
Yeah.
So once that's sorted, I'll
You'll be on to the next.
be all over it.
Oh,
Nice.
So
absolutely.
the Beat Bullying initiative is, and then of course I draw other people in,
Yeah.
who do other great things, and people who are beyond my level of expertise.
Yeah.
It's not it's a one-man band. It's a one-man concept, but I work with lots of people, and I just think bullying is out of control.
Oh,
And
it's ridiculous,
Yeah.
especially now with how things are. It's ridiculous. But that makes so much sense. I mean, I know I can tell you from. I mean, I've talked to our teachers about it, not about anything personal about our students or anything, but
Sure.
all of them are like, sometimes I'm just a counselor. And I remember
Sure.
first hearing that and being like, what? And you don't hear anyone drumming. You just hear
They're having a
they don't
chat.
hear what they're saying, but you hear them talking.
having a conversation,
And sometimes that's what they need.
safe space.
It's a safe space. It
Yeah.
is, and that one-on-one like private lesson
Yeah.
is really. I don't know. I think there's something really you've got that in combination with something that's very therapeutic
Yeah.
that you can focus on to shift your mind. And there's something about the part of the brain that I'm sure there's a study somewhere about. I know there's studies because people tell me that educators, different people that work in this field, about stimulating the part of your brain when you're making music and being
Sure.
creative is so key to helping.
Spikes
with that.
off the endorphins, and especially if you've got a rapport with Shawn or you or anybody that's
Yeah.
genuinely concerned, but before concerned, sees you.
Right.
I see you, and learning something is very fragile. You're vulnerable, and so boys and girls are all great students. Men and women, and it's in that vulnerability where, wow, I wish I could do this thing. Like I had someone the other day, I wish I could play Rosanna by Toto, Jeff Porcaro. I said, well, we can break it down. And then we have a side conversation where you can break down your problem. And we can, write down the problem, put it in your hand. And I'd never ever say that a problem can be erased easily, but how it affects you, we can work on that. Now you can go levels of confidence, and I love developing people's competency and their confidence as one. And when
Right.
you do that, you can give them the skills and the tools to maybe to deal with bullying. But it's very real. It's with us. It's with us all the time. It's out of control. I'm not winning, but I'm proud to be part of my little part of trying to help
That's
it.
amazing. That's awesome.
You know, so this year the plans is to maybe go a little bit more public with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not to share anybody's, story or situations, but to go more public with the initiative, and say, hey, listen,
Yeah.
if you want to have a positive experience with someone, whether it's myself or someone else through me, we can do beat bullying. We can give you a drum lesson or some sort of experience.
Yeah.
And
Dude, I love
know,
it. I'm
yeah.
like, sign us up, man. Like,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
that's. I mean, I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but I'm just thinking like maybe local drum shops or smaller lesson facilities that can handle something like that would be a good.
look at
avenue,
just
but
someone who's
absolutely.
feeling low, someone who's feeling has had their first incident.
Mm-hmm.
You could cooperate with the schools. They're very good now, because there's so much. Even though a lot gets through the net, because bullying it's very sly. It's from a distance. It's through
Mm-hmm.
social media. It's very hard to tighten in the rings of security because it's so splayed out, and there's so many avenues someone can come at you from
Yeah.
through social media
Oh,
or through others.
there's more
or-
invented every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So
It's not. It's no longer just someone to your
yeah,
face.
fake
so
accounts
many-
and everything. People get really elaborate with it.
Yeah.
But if someone's having intimidation, if you can get it early. Now, often in the past, I've been dealing with the bullied and the bullier is the same person. They are one. They become a bully themselves.
Right.
People
They're hurt
by-
and then they turn it around.
Sure. So it's trying to say, hey, listen, we can help you along a road where this can be behind you.
Yeah.
But you can't just say to somebody, this will be fine,
Right.
because people are very scarred, and I take it very seriously. And I was very lucky. I was profusely bullied, but I was lucky. I had an amazing home life. I had my music,
Mm-hmm.
and I had these visions of things that we know now I did.
Right.
Thoughts are things, and yeah, there were bad days and stuff. But I was obviously born a particularly happy person, and I developed positivity and I developed confidence, and getting improved at music, and not just money, getting improved at martial arts, not just physically. And people misappropriate money and being confident and having a nice life as arrogance, but it's like the guy playing pool when he puts the ball in the pocket. That's what you were trying to do the whole time.
That's right.
So
There's
it's
nothing
just-
arrogant about that.
Sean's
That's the game.
grooving and he finishes
Yeah.
the song and shh,
Yeah.
and someone says to him, "Yeah,
Showing off.
you were lucky with that."
Yeah.
You no, that's what I was thinking about that. You were thinking about it in the car. I'm
Sure.
gonna finish this. So it's intentional again. So let's get away from that. Some people do things excellently, and that's
Yeah.
just a fact.
Yeah.
And so, be purposeful, be intentional. But when people are broken and fragile, it's a horrible thing to see. And
Yeah.
our level of
And
expertise
there's
is
not
music.
always, and there's not always somebody
Right.
there to those people feel helpless. But who do you go to? You're afraid to say anything to anybody because of what maybe you were called or
Sure.
what somebody was doing or saying to you.
Yep.
And it's like that's where talking to your drum teacher is like there's a relationship there and they feel open and that's where you're able to share those
Yeah.
things, and it's good that now you're in a position to help people along the way that don't have anybody to reach out to and say, hey, this is what's happening to me, and you're there to say, hey, it's not going to be okay in a minute, but guess
Right.
what, here's how we can make things better.
Yeah, I mean, some great people have suffered intimidation or have their own weaknesses in abilities with things. I've had people come to me with dyslexia, have hearing problems, have physical problems,
Yeah.
and other people have turned them away for drum lessons. And so just accepting them, it's not even the word, it's just putting them on the schedule for lessons is not just an exchange of money, as they feel accepted.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was the guy definitely in Ireland, and I was flat out in Ireland. And when we lived in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, we basically had a drum room at the top of the house, and Nicole would be making dinner and people were just coming non-stop. And you get to a point where you don't want to say no. And people are coming for different reasons.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
adults, you build up trust with them, and then they tell you your problems. And I'm very flattered by that. And I try and make the sessions funny, relaxing, informative.
Yeah.
Whatever way you want to go. If you want to get deep about the history of music, we can do that. If you want to nerd over a snare drum, we can do that. But you know, learning your favorite band and saying, well, I didn't think I could do this. I said, well, I always thought you could do it. Like I had an adult student say the other day, you're the first person that told me I could do this. I said, that's insane. Well, what do you think my job is? My job is Drumming Academy was created for accessibility.
Yeah.
And Beat Bullying Initiative was to help those that can't help themselves. And that's really it.
Yep.
And so, you know, there's periods in any year, I get preoccupied with other projects or my kids and my wife, and we're renovating a house, and that's okay. And then, so I'd just like to always be honest with you guys and the viewers.
Yeah.
I have dips and troughs of, you know, this activity of everything.
Always.
Now I'm getting ready to get it all in a headlock again.
Oh yeah.
Even
I
though
know.
I need spine surgery, I'm getting everyone in a headlock. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know.
You're
I
not
love it.
going to stop me, and I try and teach that too.
Yeah.
So out of the drum lessons, while I was in Nashville, I've coached people forever, mostly through just my personality, and I've been pretty successful in businesses and stuff like that as an entrepreneur, and I create a coaching business. So out of the lessons, invariably, like college age students and older would often transition to coaching clients, and I hate to call them clients, but you know, coaching candidates, coaching members of my Engage the Universe.
Yeah.
So Drumming Academy, Beat Bullying, Rhythm Saint, Engage the Universe, all transcends through me, and none of it would exist without others. It just,
I love it.
It just
That's
wouldn't.
We keep creating new things here.
It just
man.
wouldn't.
It's you create an ecosystem, and when you've got the drive and the passion at the hub that you do, it's all destined to work.
Well, that's why I'm here, because I've been following what you've been doing, and I love it. Of course, everything in my life's a little bit of a distance away, but that's okay. If we were next door, it'd be insane. But that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Because of what you've done by having drums, etc., and Shawn and everybody here and the gear, and that's genuine. That's genuine. Like, you could have anyone here, and I wouldn't be anywhere else. That's where I chose to be tonight. This is it. You know, and that's that purpose. And so if we could teach that,
That's it.
you know, I mean,
That's the key.
I've had great students and great guys, and I grow. That's important too. And it gets difficult, you know, because you know, that was a boring class. One guy said, you know, and I take it all on board. He said, I'm not here. I'll say it exactly the way he said it, because it's important for the viewers.
Yeah.
I am not paying you to hear your stories. And I said, okay, well, I'm telling you how I bought a business for $1 and I built it up and I fed myself. That's the story.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. And I could go on and on about, you did kindly ask me about Beat Bullying. We could talk about what happened. Well, it was just brutal, but the success is getting the other side of it. Well, let's make that story short.
That's the
We
story.
could talk about
you
that,
don't
but
wanna dwell on that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I physically went through a lot of stuff, and I'm proud of myself, but proud of how other people allowed me to be what I am, and not be really, really damaged. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
really
well,
lucky that I wasn't damaged.
It's awesome that you're willing to talk about it and to share with it. And
Sure.
I can't encourage it enough, man. It's,
Yeah,
it's absolutely incredible. That's what people need to hear. They need to hear
I'm
that.
up.
and you're
I'm
communicating
available.
That, you know,
I'm
You're not
available
keeping
to you guys. I'm available to viewers.
Yeah.
It can be figured out. Don't, you know,
Yeah.
don't be alone in the dark with your thoughts, and don't be even pissed off about your drum sound. Between us, we can fix it. Because don't get down about what you're not up on yet.
Yep.
You know, you
Yeah,
come
and
in
it's a
here.
journey, too.
We can get you that.
Yep.
We can get you that step, because it's a really nice feeling when you achieve something.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be money. Money's boring. Money's obvious. It's the exchange
Yep.
for. It's horrible.
And it's all those small wins too. It
It's-
can be setting up. We
Yep.
have been, getting. I put a bunch of promo videos out for my masterclass thing, and
I saw.
some of them.
I saw.
Some of them. Read the comments. Some of
Yeah,
them
I
are
saw.
quite.
I know
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I saw the comments
And,
there.
and I'm not here to gripe or complain or anything. I'm
No,
actually
but it's
here to say
relative.
the opposite.
Right.
It's
relative
relative
to what we're talking about.
It's relative. Yeah.
I have, for those that don't know, I have these little promo videos out. I'm going to be going over everything to set up. My whole point is that the little things add up, you know?
They
and
do.
same thing with mental health, same thing with those little wins. That's what I'm saying. Those little wins, time after time, turn into big things, turn
Yeah.
into big wins. And so I put out videos of different things like setting up a snare stand, putting a bass drum, what do bass drum spurs do, this, that, you know? And
Yeah.
in some I talk about it, in some I say, this is more than I can just talk about here. But it's to illustrate a point of like, hey, have you ever been here? Does this stress you out? Come to the thing, and
yeah,
we'll
I
talk
think
about
they're
it
very
longer.
good, actually. To be
Oh,
honest,
thank you.
I like
It's
them.
gonna be
I
excellent.
like
Yeah.
them because they're real. And
That's
sometimes
trying to
real.
cut through.
Sometimes real is uncomfortable. You know, you tell someone, say, "Listen, unfortunately, you can't sing, but you're a great dancer," and they struggle with it.
Sure.
And we've all had that. Whatever
Yeah.
somebody tells you something, and you're crushed for a minute. And we'll talk about the troll thing briefly. But like, yeah, way back in the day, like when I was a teenager, I would take it really personally.
Yep.
So like 10 years ago, thereabouts, if somebody thumbs down or said something nasty on YouTube, I would take it personally.
Yeah.
Because what I'm thinking about is how hard I worked
Yeah.
to make this crappy video.
Yep.
And it was crappy. The video was crappy. I don't believe the playing was that terrible, but the video was. That was always my Achilles heel. I've always admitted that. I'm still trying to get to this level. Ironically, I'm too busy and I'm not setting aside the time to learn the technology to do it. But I have a videographer
honest with it.
and I'm going to crush it one day
Yeah.
really
That's it.
soon. I'm going to build an unbelievable studio at the house and it's going to be ridiculous.
Yep.
But that was my Achilles heel. But 10 years ago, if you said, your kit color sucks, man, I was like, what's this guy? Now, they've said worse than that. Now, it's amazing. It's
Yep.
almost like I'm listening to my own education.
Yep.
I'm like, I don't even... And actually, if you Google Aaron Kennedy drummer or go through Facebook, you will not see one negative comment from me. Even where maybe somebody deserves it. Now, I
Yeah.
will police something. I'd say, hey, like the other day, I said, a guy put a kid up for $10,000,
Yeah.
and these people are crushing this poor man. I mean, that's what he wants for it. I mean, if it was a boat, it'd be 300 grand.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
a horrible boat
Sure.
with algae on it.
Yeah.
It's a DW kit. He wants 10 grand for it, and I say, good luck to him. In a world where you're buying a chicken sandwich for $1,000 on eBay, like, come on. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay. That's
why
why
can't-
he,
if he
it's
could
his
get it?
prerogative.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
I
Yep.
before
Bless
before I
to you.
came here, I have to give a shout out, if it's okay,
Absolutely.
to Peisty, because actually it's relative to beat bullying. It's relative to everything. I'm going to share this with you guys,
Yeah.
real briefly, because I know we've talked about it a lot.
There's.
So
It's okay.
I had my entire life's work of drums stolen, including the Letterman kit in Nashville.
Just give me a minute.
Yeah,
This hurts. I feel it. Okay.
all of it,
I'm
everything,
ready.
every single
Okay.
symbol, everything. My Stuart Copeland signature kit, the Letterman kit, dozens and dozens of Peisty cymbals, all my snares, Stuart's Iron Cobra pedal, my double pedal, my 93 pedal, Julius pedals, who were so good to me, and Kevin's a great friend. We must have had a dozen Julius pedals stolen, brand new. All my memorabilia, all my stuff going all the way back. So the reason I shared it is, well, I'm here.
Yeah.
You're not going to stop me.
Right.
Right? So stolen now my unit,
Wow.
you know? So you talk about, you know,
And you feel helpless.
oh, it's been a terror. I was in hospital and everything. But, you know, people like Peisty and Vic Firth and Evans Heads, they have healed me and helped me through it. because we've had a long conversation. You're getting to know me, and I really appreciate. I'm thinking about like they stole stuff from Ricky, Ricky's last sticks and things that matter. You know, photographs, all my memorabilia, everything.
Yeah, the
and
stuff
I'm sharing
that
it.
can't be replaced.
Yeah, I'm sharing it because just before I left the house, I saw this remark, and like, I had Kelly Peisty call me from her car in Switzerland and said, "Aaron, I'm so sorry. How are you doing? What can we do for you?"
Wow.
Now, those words are still resonating with me because that means the world.
Yeah.
And I mean, the theft is it's like a bullying. Now, there's a big case going on, there all that stuff, and I've been hyper diligent because you remember the Sharpie thing earlier? Do you remember the detail? I'm a detail guy.
Yeah, it's
okay.
all there.
So that detail's gonna save me.
You've
But
got a file.
that kit user
Timestamps.
that story with the Letterman show and the kit, and I love that you're so excited about it. And I was thinking about what I'm telling you and said, this is not the time to drop that bomb. But that we have found that kit. And that kit is with a man. All the gear was brought into a certain music store, all of it.
Okay.
And sold.
Okay.
Purchased, excuse me, and resold. And I found my Stuart Copeland signature kit in California. And I think it's important for the viewers because you can have your dream, you can succeed your dream, and it can be taken from you. So I'm doing a short movie, a documentary about the Copeland signature kit.
Yeah.
Because I've got it back. I just looked at it before I came to see you.
Nice.
So, so Kelly called me. What can you do? I said, well, you know, I mean, I was in pretty bad shape when she called me.
Yeah.
And remember, I'm a happy, robust Irish man who's had a great life. And I was fragile when she called me.
You're still human.
Yeah, sure. And it's good to share that.
Yes.
Because, you know, I like to be real with viewers and stuff and say, you know, this is a guy, these are guys who live this, but stuff happens to us too.
Happens.
Yeah. And of course, I remember where I got everything. I remember who gave it to me. So when Kelly spoke to me, it meant the world. And so they have been so amazing, helping me replace my cymbals. And like the hi-hats from my first ever drum lesson belonged to my teacher. They were stolen. 1970s Pisces. They're gone. Yeah. Somebody has them out there in the world playing them. You know, custom snares, all this kind of stuff.
But it's
really
you can't
hurtful.
Blame them though. It sucks that they have
them.
But it's
they purchased them. You know, like you purchase anything, right?
Yeah, right.
And there's this whole investigation and stuff. But you know, trying to put a life you've built back together without that stuff. So you know, Kelly was amazing. Peisty as a company are amazing. They're sending me, you know, my sound. So it's taken a minute. I mean, I got the Phil Collins kit back. We can talk about that another time. The Stuart Copeland signature kit, which means the world to me. Everything means the world to me. I'm obsessive, right? Yeah. And I had the kit. I've had the kit for months now, and I only set it up recently because can you believe that you get to a point where I can't believe I own this, and you play it a lot. You play it a lot. You move to Nashville, it's stolen. Then it comes back, and it's been sitting there, and I just couldn't bring myself to play it. So they've been sending me stuff, sending me pasties. They sent me a bag. They've just been so good. And that's that relationship.
Yeah, the stuff was gone, but the relationships were still there.
Yeah, but that's the relationship I saw when I was a teenager. Like, I never just wanted to have gear.
Right.
I wanted you to say, oh, he's a nice dude. And then if I did him, God, he can play a bit. It's not even amazing. He can play a bit. He brings a good thing. I like that for others.
Yeah.
So just be magic in the room. Be the room.
Yeah.
And bring your thing. And be interested in his story. Be interested, you know, and great things can happen. Yeah. And so as soon as I moved to the States, Peisty took me on and have been amazing to me. And I really treasure that relationship. Yeah. And actually, wearing a t-shirt, Peisty is pashta in Irish. And it means children. Child. It means children. Can you believe that?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, Peisty really is my sound, and it's not a brand shout out. It's a people shout out.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I'm very sincere about that.
Yeah.
And they've been sending me some product as they can because, you know, they're trying to service the whole world, and it just means the world to me. So, I like my splashes. So they sent me an 8-inch splash the other day. Amazing. So I have them set up with the Copeland kit, and I did a little thing. And a person said, amateur. And I actually was like, God, that's quite funny, because I actually get paid to play. So I'm the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So like the groove is not too bad. I'm not in the best shape playing right now because of my.
Yeah.
But I generally only look back on if I want to send a student something or a friend or something. Because all the YouTube videos I do, I'm generally doing a tribute to someone, actually.
Okay.
That's the secret behind my YouTube videos, is if I do whatever song, I might know the person, or it's for someone else that I know likes the song. That's just my bag.
Nice.
That's just what I like to do.
great.
If I do a Beatles thing, it's not to like, hey, have you seen me play?
No.
That's just my thing, right? So I did this little reggae thing as a kind of a celebration to get in the splash. I haven't played a splash, an 8-inch signature splash, since I was in Nashville. And mine is gone. So
Yep.
I was just so happy. They've made me so happy. So I did the thing. It's only a minute long. Amateur. I'm like, okay, so I'm cool. But
Yep.
that could really hurt someone
I
else.
know.
Sure.
Nothing to do with the theft thing. I'm
No.
just saying,
Yeah.
you know, you got a young girl, a young boy, an older guy, an older woman, and they're just like,
They don't know how to
okay,
deal with it.
I'm putting myself out there. I'll say, you bake a cake and send it around to me, because my daughter's an amazing baker and she'll test it.
Yeah.
Like, where have we gone? Now, I think it has improved. I think the trolls are back under the bridge for the last few years, but there's this other, other thing.
Yeah.
They're coming up the back end of like 6 or 7, and it's just amateur. And I'm
Well,
like,
I gotta add something
That's
too,
curious,
because
right?
I've said this too. There are so many people, and I have to, you know, I respond to a lot of people online and talk to people. I've never had somebody come at me to my face this angry as people are online all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, where are these people in real life? They're I call them keyboard warriors.
sure.
And I'm like, when, you know, Adam put this video up and people are saying, oh, you could get this for free on YouTube, or I'll give you this information for free, or this is a cash grab. And they're saying all this stuff. And we're joking. We're like, you don't have to take the piss out of me for it. Like, what's going on with this? Like, why are you saying all this?
Well, it's a
negative
tremendous
stuff? Where is this
insecurity.
coming from?
Tremendous insecurity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, there is.
That's all it is.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
and obviously it's uncouth, it's rude, we got all that stuff.
Right.
I don't tend to allow it because it ferments.
Yes.
So we're pretty strict
Right.
on Drummers Universe. You should check that out. They're like 90,000+ drummers.
Yeah.
It's very hard to police that.
Right.
But we're pretty strict, and it's just real simple. Love your drums. If someone shares, you know, a parrot on the right cymbal. Okay, it's a parrot on the right cymbal, and that's just how it is. And
Yep.
we can have a laugh about it. We can whatever, but don't be facetious
Right.
ever. And I go deeper than that because some people take it really badly, and I used to. And not lack of confidence in my ability. I'm very happy.
No,
Again,
it's the
It's a
The hurt.
prideful thing.
it is.
the hurt. See, that, like when I do my coaching, I say, so that was your contribution to today.
Yep.
That's your contribution to this. So I just before I left the house, I just laughed, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
And that I could not have done that 10 years ago.
Yep.
And for no reason. I don't have 1 million followers on Instagram, and I don't have that, and I'm not trying, and I'm certainly not paying for them. But I feel very, oh my God, I feel very fortunate that these great companies who make these great products
Yeah.
want to be involved with me.
They got
great.
your back.
And it's
They got
just
your back.
they've got me back, and I spread the wealth, I spread the health, I spread the motivation. Say go to drums, etc. Go to the guy local to you. I really am big into local stores, actually.
Yeah.
But nothing to do with the theft.
No.
I was just like,
No.
but that said, you don't know what someone's going through. And
They
when
could
I
have
was
just had their store Copeland kit stolen.
and when I was younger, I'd have an opinion about stuff, but you learn as you be mature that people are going through stuff.
Yep.
And
Yep.
this thing we do is phenomenal. So it can make or break you. But I
Yeah.
think we are ambassadors
Yes.
for goodwill,
Yes.
ambassadors for
It's
for
it's
drumming.
a responsibility we take seriously.
That's why I
Josh
created the
Kanufsky,
brands.
a former guest of ours, said that too. He said that
That's
when
good.
he's out on tour and doing his thing, like he considers himself an ambassador for his family or the drumming community, and his
Excellent.
band, everything else like that. And I was like, wow, that's a good way of looking at it and putting it. Like, you know, you want to go into these different places you've never been, and share that positivity. Positivity and
Yeah,
everything else.
I'm mega positive, and I was challenged with that the last few months.
Yeah.
I was challenged. I had a
Oh, I
conversation with my wife today because we're tracking down the Letterman kid because we're talking drums. It's a drum
Yep.
keys, a drum podcast,
Yep.
and that's a very special kit. That's a very special part of my journey.
Yep.
And I text her and I said, I'll be honest with you, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
That this is ridiculous.
But you're
that
being
I-
honest about
that,
it.
that I'm like having to explain myself and give more evidence that I actually have the 18th floor from that kit. And this person has the octobands, the 8 through to 16. Say, okay, you wouldn't have it if I didn't have it because it was taken from me.
Right.
But you could take that as a metaphor for a lot of things. Things that are attainable, not attainable, being appreciative.
Yeah.
And I am ridiculously appreciative of
Yeah.
everything I have. So when somebody attacks it,
Yep.
it's hurtful. So when someone attacks somebody else, so someone's picking on Shawn, it's just my instinct to want to be involved. And that's not always the right thing either. You
No.
should report it or whatever. So back to the school thing, I just
Yeah.
wanted to be in service and be in service to drummers and be in service to you. It makes me happy.
Yep.
And I'm not looking for anything. You can't give without getting. You
can.
Like, and that's why I
Giving
think
without expectation.
yeah, and the good and the bad go together. And I mean, I'm struggling with that with the gear gone. Since it's a drum podcast,
Yeah.
it's my message to the guys is, if you have your gear anywhere right now, go check it,
Dude.
because this is a huge company that I have my gear in, and they failed me.
Yep.
And I'm a good dude. I'm organized. They were paid. That's not, in question. So that comes back down to take care of everything.
Yep.
Take care of stuff, and it's just small checks,
Yep.
about yourself.
Details.
Phone is charged.
Yep.
We go lose our mind when we lose our phone. Lose our mind.
Yep.
So I'm gonna make a short movie about the kit and make it a positive thing, cause I have it back. And
Yes.
people like Peisty and Vic Firth, and we brought the drum dots. Evan's heads have been unbelievable because they recognize what was once there is gone,
Yeah.
and I can't be Rhythm Saint or
Yep.
Supply Drumming Academy
yep.
with good education. They're propping me up, and I don't think they realize how much they've healed me actually, as strong
Good
and
people, man.
as focused as I claim to be. I've volatile for the last 6-7 months,
Yeah. It hits you.
but I'm here. You can still keep,
Still keep pushing.
as long like forming a band, everything we've talked about, tuning. You've got to show up, be present, follow through. And even in the bad times, that's especially when people will show up for you, because you were around a lot,
Yep.
and now you're not. You're not
Yep.
around a little bit. What's going on with Shawn? So I think the mental health comes into the music healing and
Yep. It's all
everything.
connected.
Everything you're doing here is a mecca, And I don't think sometimes you realize it. You're dealing with money and product and deliveries, and you can lose sight of it by accident.
Yeah.
I want you to hear from me, what you're doing is great work. It's
you.
amazing.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
I think I saw this little girl getting drum lessons earlier. I was just like, come on, man.
Awesome.
Come on.
Doesn't get better than that.
That's the little heels right there,
That's right.
Yep.
It's amazing. I appreciate you guys very much. It's been amazing to be on here. I have
Well,
to
thank
say.
you for coming, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate you
absolutely.
coming out, man.
My
This
man
was a
Shawn, he
pleasure.
doesn't
This
even
was a-
clean his pedals. It's disgraceful.
Dude,
I know.
It was a
I
pleasure,
think he
man.
does.
I
He
can't
doesn't
even
clean his
look-
pedals.
I can't
and
even
you
look
shook
at
his
it.
hand.
I can't even look at it, and mine are gone. I can't even look at that.
Can't
pedal.
even look at it.
It's filthy.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us here at Drum Key. These podcasts, the more we do, the deeper we get, and the more vulnerable and the more honest we can be. And it is my favorite thing that we do at Drums Etc. So thank you for being a part of it.
Absolutely.
And thank
It's
you
my
guys
pleasure.
checking it out. Hopefully you gained some knowledge here and made it here to the end. Also, we have a Discord channel if you want to reach out. Obviously, comment sections. If you see clips, if you see the whole thing, if you're on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening or watching, give us some feedback. If you've got negative feedback, your mom said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. Get out of here. No 1-star reviews. Only 5. Only 5,
right.
or else go away.
5.
It's okay. It's not for you.
Next.
That's cool.
Next.
That's cool. There's a lot of podcasts. But thank you guys for joining us. As always, support your local drum shops. If you don't have a local drum shop, we'd be happy to adopt you into our family here. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.